Oh, what is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants live stream. I know that's not my typical intro. Obviously, I haven't done my videos in a while. I'm off this week from work, so obviously, big news went down for the New York Giants yesterday, being that they decided to keep both Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. So just coincidentally, I said, I'm off this week. Do a midday stream, hang out with you guys for a bit, talk about what went down yesterday. I'm looking up at the sky. Sky hasn't fallen yet. We're all still here. We're all still alive. Because the post that I got on Twitter was basically that hell is frozen over. Everything is done. And I get it. we're a fan base that has been beaten down and beaten down and beaten down again since our last Super Bowl. 12, 13 straight years. And listen, I'd make a lot of content, obviously, this year. Not much at all, other than my live streams when I go live and talk about the Giants with you guys during the games and some of the Giant shows that Bad Dog and myself have done. I've voiced my opinion on Twitter, though. For the last 6 weeks, I've told you guys that Joe Schoen's coming back. So this really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Haven't consumed any Giants content on YouTube. I'm sure most of the content creators are telling you that hell is frozen over and that this is the worst decision of all time. And I get it. The team didn't do well. The team won 3 games. They're a disaster. And you look at the team before Joe Schoen took the job, and you look at the team now and you say, well, where's the improvements? Where's the improvements? Where did this team get better? Why did they keep Joe Schoen? And we'll talk about it throughout the live stream as to why I think they ended up keeping Joe Schoen. And you may disagree with that, and that's fine. That's why we're all allowed to have opinions and whatever. It's kind of like the Daniel Jones decision. When I had to give my opinion on that, it wasn't like I was ultra confident that Daniel Jones was going to be successful, but based off the circumstance, I thought it was the best decision to keep him in that situation. I kind of feel that way here. By no means am I telling you that I think Joe Schoen's going to be successful, because they're the Giants, and Joe Schoen to this point hasn't shown you a lot of reasoning as to why he will be successful. The same thing with Brian Daboll outside of his first year when he was the coach of the year. So I'm not telling you I'm ultra confident that things are going to work out, but I wouldn't have been ultra confident that things were going to work out if they fired them. And John Mara had to hire another guy and put him into this situation, especially when the Giants weren't going to have the first overall pick. Quick turnover again with the general manager, the head coach. So based off the circumstance, I carefully say that I agree with the decision by John Mara to keep Joe Schoen. Now, I was of the mindset, if you've listened to me for the last couple of weeks, that they were going to fire Brian Daboll. And the reasoning I thought that was for Mara to have a longer leash next year. Because if you fire Brian Daboll, well, you give the fan base a little bit of meat, and then the fan base can't come at you next year because you just brought in a new head coach. You just drafted a new quarterback. But now by bringing back Brian Daboll, the heat's going to be turned up day one. This fan base was flying planes over the stadium for the last month of the season, and they had 3 waiting, but the weather derailed that. So the heat is going to be turned up day one. And this is just speculation on my part. This is what I think happened. And I don't work for the Giants. I don't pretend to work for the Giants. But this is what I think happened. If I had to guess based on John Mara's history. You saw the news reports that came out from the beat reporters 2, 3, 4 weeks leading up to the decision that they were contemplating firing Brian Daboll and keeping Joe Schoen. I always knew they were keeping Joe Schoen. I knew that Mara wasn't going to completely blow it up after 3 years. That I was almost certain of. And then when those reports came out, I said, okay, this is kind of what I expected. I thought that they would fire Brian Daboll so Mara wouldn't be forced to make wholesale change next year, and they would get 2 years. What I think happened, it came out yesterday that the Giants and Mara talked on Friday, 2 days before the last game. During that meeting, I think Joe Schoen went to bat for Brian Daboll. That's my guess. And I think that he said, this is my best option. I don't believe there's another coach out there that's going to get this job done. But by doing so, it's probably going to give Joe Schoen a little bit less of a leash. And then you hear the comments that come out from Mara yesterday, and he talks about how, he's saying the patience, how he's losing patience. And that scares you a bit as a fan, because I don't want to relive the Daniel Jones situation all over again. I don't want to relive having to fire the head coach after the first year of the quarterback's, career. because then you're setting the quarterback up for failure. Then he's got to learn a whole new scheme and everything else. Now, it may be some speculation. It may be people taking his words a little bit too seriously, where they say that it's a playoff ultimatum. But based on what Mara had to say, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned that if this team wins 5 games next year, because we've seen him do it before. We saw him fire Pat Shurmur after Daniel Jones' rookie year when the quarterback actually showed some promise in his rookie year. So, in my opinion, and everybody in the chat is probably going to disagree with me because everybody wants hell on earth. I get it. In my opinion, if we draft Shedeur Sanders, if we draft Cam Ward, if we draft a quarterback, and that quarterback shows some promise, he doesn't have to be Jaden Daniels. He doesn't have to be CJ Stroud. He doesn't have to take us to the playoffs, but he shows some promise. He shows you some hope to build off of the following year. I don't care if the team wins 5 games. Have you seen the schedule? It is a gauntlet of a schedule. If you're John Mara and you brought these 2 guys back, you brought back Joe Schoen, you brought back Brian Daboll. The only explanation why you brought him back, in my opinion, is because you feel that they could get the job done with a new quarterback. After all, that's why Brian Daboll got this job to begin with, his success with quarterbacks in the past. So if you believe that, let them carry it through. That's it. Now, if this quarterback is a complete mess and they win 1 game and they have the first pick, okay. But don't make the same mistake you made last time when you fired Pat Shurmur after Daniel Jones' rookie year. That's my opinion on the matter. You took it this far. You took the bullets, Mara. You took the bullets from the media. You took the bullets from the fan base. You did what you thought was right. Obviously, most of the fans don't think it was right. Take it all the way now. Don't cut this off after the first year when you draft a rookie quarterback. That would be a massive mistake. Now, I don't know what the plans are going to be. Maybe they don't draft a quarterback at 3. We'll talk about that throughout the live stream. Maybe they sign a veteran. Then the gloves are off. You better make the playoffs at that point, or you better be competing. But if they draft a rookie quarterback and that quarterback shows promise, you don't throw these guys out the door. That's my take on the situation. But what's going on, everybody? Thanks for being here. And Nelson, thanks for being in the chat, man. Appreciate you for being in the chat. And let's see. Chris Spires, what's going on, man? To me, crazy John Mara basically told the GM and the coach that don't make the playoffs. They both will be fired next season. I don't know if that's being taken out of context. I don't know if people are putting their spin on it. If he has a playoff ultimatum, John Mara is out of his mind. Out of his mind. And I don't think that he does. When push comes to shove, this is my take on what Mara had to say today. Yesterday, rather. I think it was word salad. I think he was trying to show the fan base, I care as much as you do. I'm as pissed as you are. I want a product as much as you do. But I don't believe he has a playoff ultimatum on this team next year. I don't believe it. Not the team won 3 games. The schedule is brutal next year. Mara has to have the mindset of, if this rookie quarterback shows promise, if we show that we're going down a steady path, that we're improving, I'm going to let these guys carry out and see what they can do year 2 with the quarterback. That's got to be the objective. That's got to be at this point. And that's my take on it. What's going on, Big Mike, man? Thanks for popping in, man. Let's go. And Stephen Lilly from across the pond, he says, "Hiya, bud. I personally think this is all set up for 2026 and getting Manning. Daboll and Shane fail, and as Mara will say, the rest is history." 56 go. Well, here's what I have to say in regards to that, Lily. And love you, man. Thank you for being here from across the pond. One of my OGs, day oneers. Here's my take on that. That can't be the plan. And if it is, that's the stupidest plan of all time. Not saying you're stupid, but I'm going to explain why. If the Giants are doing that, it's a stupid plan. You don't know if Arch Manning's coming out in 2026, especially with the nil money. Arch Manning stands to make a lot of money staying in college. And he may feel like he needs more seasoning, right? Ask the New York Jets how that worked out when they thought they were going to get Peyton Manning with the first pick in 96. And he said, I'm not playing for the Jets. I'll stay at Tennessee for another year and I'll end up with the Colts. So there's no way the Giants should be operating with a plan like that. I don't think that's the plan. Call me crazy. Today, if you ask me, and I'll be doing, last year I only did 1 mock draft, guys. I only did 1 mock draft. I got both picks right in the first 2 rounds. I said Neighbors and I said Newbin with the 2 picks. And there's the balloons, by the way. If I was doing a mock draft today, and I know a lot of Giants fans don't want to hear this because it's not popular on Twitter and I know he didn't have a good game when he was on the national spotlight. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a Giant. And I'll express my reasoning throughout this live stream. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a New York Giant. I'm pretty confident when I say that. But we'll see. But I have reasonings for that. But that's my prediction. But thanks for being here, man. Whatever you're about to say, no, little bulldozer says. That's my prediction, man. That's my prediction. Chris and Bad Dogs Intern says, how do you feel about Aller if he chooses to declare? I saw the playoff game. I didn't get a chance to see a ton of Aller this year. I watched Aller actually last year. I watched his debut game when he was with Penn State. He didn't look good. Now, and people have asked me about him in the past before this year started, and I said the one thing that really stood out to me with him, he's got a big arm. He's got an electric arm, which is enticing, right, to general managers from around the league because you can't teach that, right? That's God-given. So he's got a big arm. He's got the traditional build for a quarterback. He's 6'5". Typically that's what you want, right? A mobile 6'5" quarterback with a big arm. So Aller's got that going for him. But most people will tell you they feel like he needs more seasoning. Aller has already come out, to my knowledge, unless this has changed, and maybe it will change with 2 games still to go, potentially 2 games. I think they're going to lose to Notre Dame, but we'll see. Maybe he will change his mind and he will opt in for the draft. And if he does, sorry about that, and if he does in a weaker quarterback class, Drew Aller may potentially be a high pick. And he may look at it that way. He may say, well, this isn't the strongest quarterback class. I'm probably going to be a top 5, top 10 pick anyway. So we'll see. We'll see what he decides to do. As of now, I'm going to go based off what I know. Last thing we heard is Drew Aller is leaning towards staying in college. So based off that, that's how I'm going to speculate on whether or not he's even, the potential to be a New York Giant. Maybe he changes his mind. I don't know. But that's at least the last I heard was that he was going back to Penn State. Let's see. Ian, what's going on, man? Ian, thanks for popping in the stream, buddy. He says, Chris, please convo nice why Shane wouldn't spend the cap space we have to go all out and try to make the playoffs. He's fighting for his job. He's going to. Now, I think here's what I'm going to say. And I understand because I'm just as scared as you guys are. This team has bit us in the ass for the last 10, 12 years. And when the Giants have been aggressive, it has failed awful. Historically. Right? You think about Jerry Reese in 2016. You went out there, you signed Snacks Harrison, you signed Janoris Jenkins, and you signed, who am I forgetting, guys? Snacks, Janoris Jenkins, and Olivier Vernon. Right? They were the highest paid players at their positions in that free agency class. It got us a year of success. We made the playoffs, and then everything tanked after that. Then Dave Gettleman went out, and he spent a boatload on Kenny Golladay. He spent a boatload on why am I forgetting his name? Adoree Jackson. And we were excited as fans, but ultimately it was a horrible decision. So I get why fans are scared that Joe Schoen is going to be aggressive. I think he's going to be. But I'm going to tell you why, and I'm not telling you it's going to be successful. Recent history would tell me it probably won't be. We're the New York Giants. But I'm going to tell you why I feel it is more appropriate to be aggressive now than it was during both of those 2 times. Let's start with Dave Gettleman. Now, while I made sense of why Gettleman was aggressive during that period, it was clearly a risky proposition. My thought process was when Dave Gettleman was aggressive in the 2021 offseason, it was, okay, he's trying to find out what he has in his quarterback. He hasn't been able to provide him a weapon this entire time. He's coming up on the end of his rookie contract. He's got to see what he's got. So he went out there and he spent on Kenny Golladay, which obviously was a horrible signing. In hindsight, he had the injury concerns and it blew up in our face. Adoree Jackson was good for a year, but didn't result in any success for the team. So that was awful. But the difference for me between that and now, when Dave Gettleman did that, first off, it was after COVID. That's the only year in the history of the NFL that the salary cap decreased, right? Traditionally, it goes up 7 to 10% every year. That year, it actually went down by 10%. So the year where Gettleman decided to be ultra aggressive was the one year where the salary cap diminished. It went down. And as a result, by signing Kenny Golladay, by signing Adoree Jackson, not only did he sign those players, he had to backload every contract known to man on the roster. And it affected us going forward, which is why Joe Schoen had such a challenging job his first year cleaning up the cap mess that he did. Unless COVID comes around, you're not going to face that same situation. The other difference and why I think it's more appropriate to be aggressive in this offseason as opposed to when Dave Gettleman did it, this would be year one. Let me ask the chat. This would be year one of the rookie contract for the quarterback. When is it more appropriate to be aggressive than that? We talk about it all the time as fans. You try to capitalize on the rookie quarterback contract because of how much money quarterbacks make. So when this would, in my opinion, debate me in the chat if you think I'm wrong. In my opinion, this would be the most appropriate time if you were going to be aggressive to do so. So I expect Joe Schoen to be aggressive. And I expect him to probably sign a wide receiver, whether that be a T. Higgins or a Godwin, try to shore up that offensive line a bit more, and I expect him to get some help in that secondary. That's what I think he's going to do in free agency. But that's my mindset. I don't think that there's a more appropriate time to be aggressive than now, and that's why I don't think it's the same situation that when Dave Gettleman was aggressive. Now, you could go back to Jerry Reese. Same thing. Eli Manning was already making a boatload of money, and he was approaching the tail end of his career. So I just think that every situation is different. And I think in this situation, it makes sense for Joe Schoen to be aggressive. Now, I'm not telling you I'm ultra confident that it's going to pay off, but if you were ever going to be aggressive, I think this would be the time to do it. Let's see. Thank you for being here. But Ian, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for being here, buddy. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are enjoying your week. I'm enjoying my week off. I go back to work on Monday. Jason says, I say Hunter or Graham at 3. Dark horse to me is Milroe. I would be pissed if we take Milroe at 3. I don't want Milroe. Now, here's what I'll say. I wouldn't be shocked if Milroe jumps up draft boards. He could have a killer combine because the guy is fast as hell. So he may impress some teams with his athletic ability at the combine. And maybe I'll be dead wrong. I was on here telling you guys last year I didn't want Bo Nix. Bo Nix looks good. Now, granted, he's with Sean Payton. I think that helped. He went into a really good circumstance. I don't want Milroe at 3 overall. But here's my we'll get to the Sanders thing. And again, maybe my opinion will change. This is why I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a New York Giant. One, the first thing I'll say is this. The bullshit narrative that I've heard for the last 2-3 months, and it's since been disproved by Deion Sanders himself, is that Deion wouldn't want his son to play in New York. I think the complete opposite. I think, if anything, he wants his son to play in New York. And I'll express my reasoning as to why. And then we'll get into why I think the New York Giants are going to take him. Let's just think from the perspective of Deion Sanders. And Deion has gone on record in saying that he will try to pull a Manning and try to get his son to a team that he feels is in his best interest. Let's think about this from the perspective of Deion Sanders. One, the market, obviously, right? It's going to be a better market, and we all know Deion Sanders is a smart businessman. It's going to be a better market than Cleveland or Tennessee. We'll start there. That's not the most important factor, but that's a factor. Malik Neighbors, that's a factor. Brian Daboll, as much as you may hate him as a head coach, he's a proven commodity as an offensive play caller. Let's think about something else. If you're putting your son into a situation, what would you rather have? A situation where they don't show any confidence in the quarterback, like the Cleveland Browns, who have started 3,252 quarterbacks over the last 3 years, or the Tennessee Titans, who had just fired a general manager after 2 years? Or would you rather him go to a team that gave Daniel Jones 6 years? To me, the signs are obvious as to why Deion Sanders will try to do everything in his power to get Shedeur Sanders on the New York Giants. Knowing that, I think the teams with the first 2 picks, the Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns, one of them are going to take Cam Ward because I think they're going to say behind closed doors Shedeur Sanders doesn't want to play there. I think one of those 2 are going to take Cam Ward, and I think the other team is going to probably try to make the Giants trade up for a quarterback. Now, why are the Giants going to do it? I think the simple answer is they're desperate. They're desperate. The Giants are desperate. They don't have a quarterback 1. They don't have a quarterback 2. They don't have a quarterback 7. It's the most important position on a football team, and the Giants are desperate to sell hope. If I was making a prediction today, I would unequivocally say Shedeur Sanders will be a New York Giant. And maybe I'll be dead wrong, but that's how I feel with the landscape of the draft right now. That's what I think is going to happen. Let's see. I think that they may both want quarterbacks. I don't think Deion Sanders is going to have his son play there, but maybe I'll be wrong. Let's see. And I think I was talking to Jason just now. I say Hunter Graham at 3. Let me read the rest of this. Sorry about that, Jason. I say Hunter Graham at 3. Dark horse to me is Milroe. He has a lot of tools. Now, if the Giants aren't going quarterback, yeah, I mean, you either got Carter, you got Graham, or you got Hunter. I think those are the three obvious options there for the New York Giants. But knowing the situation Joe Schoen's in, knowing that they need a quarterback outside of the Giants landing a legitimate veteran quarterback, which I guess is possible. But guys, tell me in the chat, if thinking about it from the perspective of Joe Schoen, tell me in the chat a realistic option at quarterback that is going to put the Giants in playoff contention this year. Because if you're not drafting a quarterback and you're bringing in a veteran, that veteran better be bringing you to the playoffs. If you or at least damn near close, 9 wins, 10 wins. If you draft a quarterback, you get a little bit more leeway. You win 5-6 games, but the quarterback shows promise, you get to stick around. So tell me a quarterback that's obtainable, that you feel confident, if you're Joe Schoen, that you could bring in here with the schedule that we have, and you can win 10 games. Tell me the quarterback. You guys say Kirk Cousins. I'm not confident with Kirk Cousins to make the playoffs. I'm not against Kirk Cousins, but I'm not confident with him being the only option at quarterback that my team's going to win 10 games. What's up? Matthew Stafford is more realistic if they're looking to trade him. If they're looking to trade him, he's more realistic. Here's the thing with Aaron Rodgers, and then we'll get to a couple of the super chats I'm behind on. Here's the thing with Aaron Rodgers. I actually could see some of the logic for when fans bring up Aaron Rodgers. And call me crazy. People are saying that, they saw that he struggled with the Jets. He's 40 years old, blah, 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 blah. I actually think Aaron Rodgers will be better next year. I watched his last game against, I think it was Miami. And granted, Miami sucks, but he looked good. He looked like he was getting back into form. And they say typically year 2 off that injury, he's more than likely going to look better than he did this year. So Aaron Rodgers could be a stopgap. But here's my problem when I think about Aaron Rodgers as a possibility for the New York Giants. Outside of the fact that he's 9,000 years old. Why would Aaron Rodgers want to come to the New York Giants? You're 9,000 years old. You might have 2 years left, if you're lucky, in the NFL. Why would you want to go to a team that has no chance to compete to win a Super Bowl? It doesn't add up to me. At least with the Jets, he was sold that they had a chance to win a Super Bowl. We all knew as Giants fans that they're the Jets and they're going to screw it up. But with the Giants, you're not competing for a Super Bowl. So why would Aaron Rodgers at 9,032 years old want to play for the New York Giants? Why would he? So that's why I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Just want to make sure I'm caught up with all you guys. Thank you guys for being here. I just want to make sure I'm caught up. I was about to pull you up, Jason, but there might be somebody else. I'm all over the place. I'm having fun with you guys today. I got a little bit of energy. I don't know if you could tell. I love going live, hanging out with you guys. Let's see. I'm all over the place. Here we go. Ethan, what's going on, man? I am always watching our 2004 to 2015 highlights. Let's see. Our 2004 highlights weren't very good. You have that one come from behind win by Eli Manning against the Denver Broncos late in the year. I think that was his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the year where he got his first win. Might have been against the Cowboys. I can't remember. That one game. But outside of that, 2004 wasn't very good. Kurt Warner was like 5-3. The team actually started off decent, but then Eli Manning, of course, had a horrible year. 2005, plenty of good highlights for Eli Manning. He definitely showed progress throughout that year. And then, 2000, from that point, for the first half of Eli Manning's career, it was a lot of fun. Not a lot of highlights after our second Super Bowl, though. But the 2015 team was fun. But thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it, buddy. Layback says, I won't be mad if they drafted Travis Hunter. I won't be mad either. I see a lot of people say that Travis Hunter is like they kind of compare him to like Isaiah Simmons, where they say that he's good at multiple things, but he's not great at anything. I disagree. And I don't claim to be, this elite scout. I'm a fan who watches the games. When I watch him, he looks great. And when I listen to people who are paid to be scouts who know what they're talking about, they will all tell you he's an elite cornerback prospect. So I view Travis Hunter as a guy that's going to step in. He's going to be your cornerback one, hopefully, for the next 10 years. And you would shift Deonte Banks to the cornerback two. And he's a guy that could add maybe 10 to 15 snaps a game at wide receiver. We all know he's not playing 70 snaps on both sides of the ball. That's not happening. But he's a guy in select packages you could use as a wide receiver, and he's going to play full-time at the cornerback spot, and he's going to be an impactful player. So I wouldn't be against, I wouldn't cry if we did that, especially if they didn't love a quarterback. I just am of the belief that they're going to take a quarterback. Diego says, rookie quarterback and cap gives a lot of options. W take. Well, that's what I think they're going to do. That's what I think they're going to do. Yeah, I mean, if there's ever time to spend, it's then at the beginning of the rookie contract to try to capitalize on it. Chris says, hypothetically, if Shedeur and Cam are picked 1 and 2, will you be open to trading pick number 3 for a big hole in draft picks that includes it? Of course, I'd be open to it. Of course. Yeah, of course. Now, it better be a good deal because I think Hunter's a tremendous player, and the Giants need tremendous players on this football team. But, yeah, if the right deal presented itself, of course, because you have to be thinking long-term about the ability to potentially trade up for a quarterback in a future draft. So, yeah, absolutely. I just think we're going to end up getting one of those 2 quarterbacks, but maybe I'll be wrong. Let's see. Chris the Bad Dogs intern says, if the quarterbacks are gone, I wouldn't mind Carter. KT wouldn't stop me from getting another pass rusher, get a cornerback in free agency. Yeah, I haven't looked too much yet at the I know the wide receivers for the most part, the Godwin, T. Higgins, I think Pittman on the Colts, he's an option. I have to look at it. I'm not 100% sure. I think we're going to sign a free agent cornerback if we don't draft a guy like Travis Hunter. I think we're going to sign a free agent cornerback because we need it. We need a veteran back there, right? I mean, we're completely inexperienced. Drew Phillips, exciting, but Deonte Banks didn't progress like we were hoping this year. So I think we need a veteran presence in that secondary, unless we're getting a guy like Travis Hunter. But if not, then yeah, I think we will be signing. I think we're going to have 3 big signings this offseason. I think we're going to sign a corner. I think we're going to sign a wide receiver. And I think we're going to sign a offensive lineman. That's my prediction. I think and they'll be at least middle of the road to high price free agents. That's my prediction. Which player it'll be, I don't know. Last year I told you I thought we would spend our big bucks on a edge rusher in free agency. It was a trade, but our big bucks went on an edge rusher. The year before I told you that I thought we would spend our big bucks on a linebacker. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be Bobby Okereke, but that's what they did. This offseason, that's what I think they're going to do. Wide receiver, cornerback, and an offensive lineman. I think they're going to have 3 pretty aggressive free agent signings at those positions. Coach says, no way the Titans and Browns both pass up on a quarterback. Okay, we'll find out. We'll find out, Coach. Listen, I could be dead wrong. My mindset is I think Deion Sanders is going to force Shedeur Sanders to the New York Giants. I don't think he's going to want his son playing for the Titans. They just fired their general manager after 2 years. And I don't think he's going to want to. You tell me Deion Sanders is going to want his son playing for the Cleveland Browns? And he's come out and said that he will pull an Eli Manning. Maybe they will draft him, but if they do, they're going to have to deal with a headache. And maybe I'll be wrong. But that's my prediction. I think that there's going to be they're going to force the one of those 2 teams to trade out of that pick. Maybe I'll be wrong. I could be dead wrong. It's just a guessing game, man. Let's see. Jason Benjamin says, to me, Milroe has the most upside of any of these quarterbacks. You can run RPOs. He had a strong arm and had Alabama ties. He could sit and learn. I could see it. I don't want him at 3. I don't want him at 3. Now, you want to take him in the second round, which there's a good chance he won't be there. Because, like I said, he could move up during the combine. Maybe do that. I don't want him at 3. I don't want him at 3. Diet Ghost says, Chris is fired up and cooking. What's going on, Diet Ghost, man? Thanks for popping in, buddy. Thanks for popping in, my man. Taco Knox says, hey, Chris, so happy to see you back. Kafka, Bowen gone. Let's talk about that. I think that's an important topic to talk about as well. The potential change of the coaching staff for the New York Giants. Obviously, we know the big guy's not going anywhere, or the thin guy. By the way, that's a massive change. What does the chat think about that? That's a massive change that needs to happen this offseason. You want to talk about one change that the Giants made that probably more than anything else why they bombed this year? Brian Daboll's got to get fat again. This guy loses all that weight and he forgets how to coach. It's like when Ben McAdoo changed his haircut. He went from having the mushroom haircut that you would have when you're 6 years old in first grade to all of a sudden doing the slick back hair, trying to act like he's from New York. Brian Daboll's got to get fat again. But as far as the coaching staff goes, Kafka and Bowen. I think Bowen, if it was up to me as a fan, I would throw Bowen out the door. Now, what do I think's going to happen? I think Bowen's going to stay because if you're Brian Daboll, you just fired Wink Martindale, and it was a bad look on him on the way out that they couldn't get along with one another, right? They were bad mouthing each other left and right. Now you bring in a replacement this very next year, and then you're going to get rid of him the next year. I don't think Bowen did a good job. I would be completely fine bringing a new defensive coordinator to replace Bowen. But if you're asking what I think is going to happen, knowing that Daboll already has at least a slight reputation that he's hard to work with, and you're going to fire a DC after 1 year after you just fired the other guy, I think Shane Bowen's going to remain on as the defensive coordinator. And I was very underwhelmed with the performance of the defense this year. Now, if I'm Bowen, how do I go to bat for myself? I say, well, listen, the first 6-7 weeks, we actually led the NFL in sacks. Dexter Lawrence missed half the season. The offense gave us nothing on the other side of the ball. And I think when it all comes together, mainly based off the factor that I said, that Daboll, at this point, he would be going through his third defensive coordinator in 3 years. I think Bowen's back. As far as the play caller goes, John Merrick kind of came out and hinted that he'd be completely for changing the play caller. I think I don't remember the exact wording, but I think he said that he expressed that he talked to Daboll about that being a possibility. We tried it. I was on board with it. I wanted Daboll to call the plays because of the success he had in the past, even though Josh Allen had a lot to do with that. I'm not saying that I don't want Daboll to have say in the offensive game plan. Of course I do. That's his specialty. But my mindset at this point is what would I prefer and what I think they'll do. I want Daboll to focus on being a head coach. Period. End of story. You have enough on your plate there. Your job's on the line next year. If Kafka's back, let Kafka call the plays again. If Kafka's not back, bring in another guy to call the plays. Ideally, that's what I would like. Will they do that? I don't know. I know Daboll will have his fingerprints all over the offense, but that would be my preference. If Kafka's back, let him call the plays. Let Daboll focus on being the head coach. And that's where I'm leaning. What will happen? But I think Shane Bowen, unfortunately, because I'm not a big fan of Shane Bowen, I think he's going to be back. And I was excited for him. I thought he was going to work out this year, but clearly didn't. What's up, Taco Man? Thanks for popping in. Let's get to the chat. Michael says, what I would love, move back to 10-ish, grab 2 first-round picks for 26 and 27, sign Fields for 2 years, pick a cornerback or linebacker first round. I'm not against that. But, again, Michael, that's probably the best, if that was even a possibility. That's a great option for the Giants long-term, in my opinion. I just don't think Joe Schoen could afford to think long-term. So the way that if I'm Joe Schoen, the way that I'm looking at that is, well, if I do that, I'm basically going to do what Dave Gettleman did for me. Dave Gettleman traded back from 11 to 22, whatever it was, and he ended up drafting Kadarius Toney. He ended up bypassing Micah Parsons. You don't think Dave Gettleman regrets that trade? So that's the way I would look at it if I was Shane. Like, my job's, I'm on the hot seat now. Like, I just had to fight to keep my job. I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think he's going to do that. I'm not saying that's a bad option. I think that's a good option. I think that's a good plan. But I don't think that plan meets the current timeline of our general manager. So that's why I don't think it'll happen. Let's see. Chris says, to me, don't ever see Shedeur Sanders ever be in a top 10 quarterback. Would take him in the top 3. You wouldn't take him in the top 3. Yeah, I'm not even necessarily telling you that's what I would do. It's what I'm predicting will happen. Jason says, I don't see the hype for Sanders at all. Ward had 5 seconds to throw the ball at Miami. All 3 need to sit first year. Milroe has the highest upside. Hey, you're entitled to your opinion, man. I'm not a Milroe guy. I'm not saying he can't be successful. I could be dead wrong. The couple of times I watched Alabama this year, great runner. The guy, I was not impressed with his throwing at all. So I don't know. And he was awful in the playoffs. Awful. He threw, what do you have, 4 turnovers in the first quarter? I don't want Milroe. Diet says, Chris, did a line before he set up the cam. No, I did not. But Diet, what's going on, man? I'm just excited to be back talking to you guys. Matt says, regardless of what Dion thinks, the Colorado guys are likely to go 2-3, meaning one of them will end up in a horrible situation with Cleveland and that $72 million quarterback that may even be ready for the start of the season. One of them more than likely will, Matt. And I think you'd rather his son not end up in that situation. So that's my prediction. But I listen, man, I could be dead wrong. It's not like the Giants are a great situation either, if we're being honest. It's a better situation than Cleveland, but Jimmy says, I'm not against drafting Hunter and signing a guy like Cousins as a bridge. We absolutely cannot draft a quarterback at 1 and miss. Happy New Year. All right, we obviously can't miss if we draft a quarterback. Better hit if we do it. Happy New Year to you, Jimmy, man. Thanks for being here, man. And I'm not against that. I just am operating of the mindset of thinking like I think Joe Schoen is going to think. And I think we're taking a quarterback. Now, if a quarterback's not there, quarterback's not there. But that's just how I think. But obviously, this is all going to get cleared up over the next 2 months. Next free agency, right? Like if we end up signing or trading for a guy like Matt Stafford or maybe signing a Justin Fields, I think that's kind of an indicator. Okay, well, they signed Fields. He's not more than likely not a long-term option, but he's a guy that could at least maybe be the starter for a year or two, and maybe you draft a second or third round quarterback to pair with him. If they sign a guy like Jacoby Brissett, I think that more so aligns with where I'm at now. They're probably taking a quarterback early, first round in this draft. So I think we'll get a good indicator, Jimmy, in March. I think once free agency comes out, we see how the Giants handle the quarterback situation, what type of quarterback they bring in. Is it a guy that projects to be a potential starter, or is it a guy that can start for you but is a clear mentor? Because if it's the latter, I think they're taking an early quarterback. So we'll get our answers in March, man. It's just all fun to predict right now, but nobody knows. Jason says, if we miss on a quarterback, would you take Will Howard in the second or third? I'm out on Milroe. Well, we'll see. I mean, he's got I think he's going to have 2 more games. I think Ohio State's going to win. They look damn good last week. So we'll see. But, I mean, I haven't watched a ton of him. I will watch this game. I actually missed the last Ohio State playoff game. I will watch this game. I don't know. That doesn't excite me. But I don't know if it's Will Howard. I don't know if it's Jackson Dart. I don't know. I don't know. But I think that's an option if they sign a guy like a Justin Fields or trade for a guy like a Matthew Stafford. I can't foresee a scenario where we sign a Jacoby Brissett type quarterback or a Jameis Winston or, I don't know, Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know. Name like a guy that's like a clear, hold me over quarterback until you bring in a rookie. I can't see them bringing in a quarterback like that and drafting a second or third round quarterback. So if they can't get like a legitimate starter or a guy that at least has the capabilities of becoming a legitimate starter, like a Justin Fields, for example, I can't see them not taking a quarterback in the first round. David says, hi, Chris. As bad as the Giants are, at least we're not the Titans. Heard they fired their GM, but are keeping the coaches. That's the second time they did that. That's the second time they did that, David. You want to talk about a dysfunctional organization. You want to talk about a dysfunction, and the Giants are dysfunctional. But you want to talk about a dysfunctional organization. The Tennessee Titans, 2 years ago, fired the GM and kept Mike Vrabel. Then they fired Mike Vrabel, and they brought in the GM. And then they fired this GM after 2 years. He got 2 years, and they fired him with the mess that the Titans had. You want to talk about a dysfunctional organization. Tennessee's dysfunctional. Are we keeping the coaches as for the draft? Either Sanders, Ward, or Hunter. Neighbors and Hunter could be good together. Yeah, again, though, and they could be. And I'm not saying that Hunter won't play wide receiver at all. And maybe I'm wrong, but I tend to think Hunter's going to be a full-time corner and a part-time wide receiver. Let's see. I really don't think any of these quarterbacks are generational. Is it just me? I think a lot of people agree with you, Swins, and that's why I think a lot of Giants fans are scared to take a quarterback. We've been burnt before. What's up, Joey Lutz, man? Thanks for popping in. Chris, you think we could trade up? I mean, that all depends. That all depends on the circumstance of how strongly these guys feel about the quarterbacks in the draft and whether or not Deion Sanders tries to do what I think could happen. So it all depends if a trade's available, and if the Giants feel compelled enough to trade up to get a quarterback, I don't think it's off the table. Let's see. This is my favorite thing. This is my favorite thing. When I see it on Twitter or when I see it on here, how much are they paying you? Yeah, because I get paid. I get paid. I get paid by the New York Giants are paying me to tell you that I wouldn't want Travis Hunter, which, by the way, I said I would want him. I'm not anti-Travis Hunter. But that's my favorite thing. People say it on Twitter, too. I get comments on Twitter. Oh, you're a shill. Oh, how much did Mara pay you to say it? I wish John Mara paid me. I wish John Mara paid me. Why would I be why would I'm not even anti-Travis Hunter. I'm just telling you what I think they're going to do. I'm not anti-Travis Hunter. I like Travis Hunter. Let's see. Diet, what's going on, man? We draft Trav and trade for JJ. Is that feasible? I don't think they're trading JJ. I hear people all the time bring up this possibility on Twitter. Will Minnesota, should we trade for JJ McCarthy? Will Minnesota trade JJ McCarthy? I don't see the incentive to trade JJ McCarthy if you're Minnesota. It's not a situation like Arizona. Like maybe some people will compare it to that with Josh Rosen. That was a situation where it was a complete overhaul, right? I think they brought in a new GM. They definitely brought in a new coach, Cliff Kingsbury, who felt Kyler Murray fit his offense very well. They're not firing O'Connell. O'Connell obviously liked JJ McCarthy. They're not a team that is looking to make, major change. I think they're going to try to do what the Packers did. They'll probably retain Darnold, whether it be on the tag or whether it be on a deal similar to what we signed Daniel Jones to, that they could get out after 2 years, and they'll reevaluate the quarterback position then. And if they feel like it's time to move off of Darnold, then they'll bring McCarthy in. I don't think they're in a rush to trade JJ McCarthy. So I just don't think that's happening. Let's see. Tana, we getting a medium? So yeah. I'm going to give you guys all, since I get paid so much by and I know he's not talking about me specifically. He just says content creators. But yeah, since the Giants pay me so much, guys, next year it's on me. Week 15, show up to the stadium. Not only are you going to get a free medium Pepsi, I'm going to give you a free Bacardi because you need as much alcohol as possible to drain your sorrows from this team. I'm also going to pay for a Monday morning therapist, after every Giants game for you guys to see for free. You're not going to have to pay the $90 an hour that they charge. And I know all you guys in this chat are going to therapy to begin with because you're Giants fans. That's on me. That's on the house because the Giants pay me so much to say that I don't think they should take Travis Hunter, even though I didn't even say that. Let's see. I think Shane should trade to 8-ish. Then you have your choice of Abdul Carter, Will Johnson. We'll see. Kay says the only reason to take Hunter is for him to play both sides. He's not playing both sides, not full time. I think he'll play both sides, but not full time. JL says, Drew Aller, your thoughts? I mean, I don't. As of now, I'm going to take it as he's not coming out because he said that he's staying at Penn State. Last I heard, I know people are saying maybe he'll come out because I think he had a good playoff game. But until I hear that, my thoughts are he's not an option. So if he comes out, he's an option, I guess, right? I mean, he's got a big arm. He's got the ideal size to play the position. He clearly felt like he needed another year of seasoning 2 weeks ago, whenever he said that. So as of now, I'm going to take it as he's not coming out. And Jimmy, what's going on, man? If Darnold takes them on a deep run, unlikely after let me see this. If Darnold takes them on a deep run, unlikely after that game on Sunday, I can maybe see them entertaining it. I don't think JJ is going to be available. I keep saying, maybe I'm wrong, Jimmy. I don't think JJ is going to be available. I wouldn't be against it. As you know, last year I liked JJ. But think about it from the perspective of Joe Schoen. And again, I don't think Minnesota's trading him. But think even if they were open to trading him, Joe Schoen passed on him last year. So you would know as a fan already, like Joe Schoen can't sell you that I absolutely love this guy because last year he had the option to take him and he didn't take him. And now he's got one less year of rookie eligibility and he got hurt. So even if Minnesota made him available, how does Joe Schoen sell the fan base that he loves this quarterback when he could have taken him last year? I just don't see it. Maybe if it was for like a second-round pick, I don't think Minnesota's trading him. Amelia says, what is Daboll's style of offense anyway? He doesn't run like a specific like West Coast style offense like Andy Reid, for example. He more so morphs his offense around the players that he has. That's what you heard when he was with Buffalo. So yeah, he doesn't have a specific offense. He tailors it to the strengths of his players. But I mean, ideally, I think Daboll would like to have an offense that takes deep shots down the field a lot more than this offense does. Let's see. Yeah, ideally, I agree. That's what he wants to do. Jacob says, Tana, at a Gabriel Moreau, Dart, etc., who's your best day 2 guy? I guess I would say Dart right now, but I don't love any of them. I wouldn't be excited if we took any of them. JLT says, Daboll's offense features deep crossers with guys threatening 50 to 20 yards down the field. He likes to spread it out and ideally is pass heavy. Well, yeah, we saw that with Buffalo, but he's tailored his offense to what the team has had, which is shit. But in Buffalo, for example, they didn't feature the tight end at all. They featured the tight end a bit more, or maybe it was the running, but whatever it was, I think it was the running back usage rather. It was a different offense year 1 with Daniel Jones because they knew they didn't have the strength. So they basically focused on one side of the field, get the ball out quick. That was the 2022 offense, and rely heavily on the ground game, which was not the case in Buffalo. Ideally, yeah, if he has his quarterback, if he has a situation suitable to his ideal offense, yeah, he's a guy that's going to want to take shots down the field. But you can say that about every offense in today's NFL. You could say that about every offense in today's NFL. If they have the ideal quarterback and the ideal weapons, they're going to try to take shots down the field. That's how you win in the NFL. Now, I think it's ideal to be able to do both because there's going to be times in the game where you want to be able to chew up the clock, grind out the game, close out the game at the end of a game, and run the football. But you have to have big play capabilities. So that's the nature of the league today. So I don't think that's specific to Daboll. I think that's every team. But I don't think he's like married to like a specific offense. Let's put it that way. Like Shanahan, for example, or Andy Reid. Let's see. Bear, what's going on, man? I'm not sold on Hunter. He's really great at corner and wide receiver, but I doubt he plays both in the NFL. Do you think he's the best corner or the best wide receiver? He's probably the best both in this draft class, but I think most people think he's going to be better. He's going to play corner full-time in the NFL. JD, good to see you. I always talk to JD on Twitter. Good to see him, man. Hope you're enjoying work. He says, Zach Martin, Ronnie Stanley, Trey Smith, Godwin, Higgins, Ward, DJ Reed's a name I've heard a lot of people say a possibility for the Giants in the secondary. Asante Samuel, and wouldn't have to move for. Asante Samuel Jr., Stevens. Who is the high-price free agent that they sign? I mean, if it was up to me, JD, I said my prediction is they're going to sign a high-price corner, a high-price offensive lineman, and a high-price wide receiver. I'm going Trey Smith on that list that you gave me. I'm going Higgins. And I like Godwin too, but I worry about injuries with both of them because Godwin got hurt this year and he missed almost the entirety of the season, but he's super consistent. He's really good. And he was playing great this year before he got hurt. I think he had like 6 touchdowns in the first 4 or 5 games for Tampa Bay. And he's super consistent, just like Evans. Like every year, those guys are going to be productive. Higgins has injury problems too, though, even though, he's playing right now. I think I'd lean slightly towards Higgins if I had to pick between those two, but I'd be happy with either one. It would depend on the market and, so on and so forth. But probably just based off age alone, I would go with Higgins. And if all things were equal, like money and interest and everything else. And then I'd probably go with Reed. If I had to pick from that list, I'd probably go Trey Smith, Higgins, and Reed. I think that would be my list, JD. But those are the 3 positions I think they're going to attack. But good to see JD, man. Go over there. He's always on Knicks Fan TV. You know JD. He's awesome. David says Giants have 9 picks in this year's draft. They have the third pick in round 1. The second, yeah, I saw that. What's his name? Doug Analytics, he's got a great account on Twitter. He posted that. So the Giants this year, interestingly, I forgot how they do this, but basically, I think it's like based off tiebreakers that in the later rounds, your draft order could change. So the Giants actually have the second pick in the second round instead of the third pick, like they do in the first round, and they have the first pick in the third round. So yeah, I saw that. So yeah, I guess a little bit of a bonus, right? A little bit higher in those 2 rounds. So 3 picks inside the top 65. I did see that. Nico says can't retain talent in coaching or players in states of constant turnover. Well, even what's his name said that, Nico. Brian Burns said that. He came out and said that his whole career, that's the way it's been. He's had constant turnover, and the teams haven't been able to build as a result. And I get why. I get it, man. I'm not even fighting fans. You know, I got to the point, Nico, where I'm like, whatever they do, like I'm going to support it. You know, because both options probably won't be successful. John Mara will probably bring in somebody who won't work, and obviously Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll up to this point haven't worked out. But I was leaning towards I wanted Schoen to come back. Now, I didn't say it forcefully because it's not something I'm overly passionate about, but just because the results haven't been there. But that's how I felt. What do you think is going to happen, right? For everybody that complains that Joe Schoen didn't retain Saquon Barkley, didn't retain Xavier McKinney, whoever else did he let go? Same thing happened when Dave Gettleman came in, right? Everybody that complained that he traded Odell Beckham, everybody that complained that he traded Landon Collins, didn't sign Landon Collins, rather. He wiped out the entire roster. What do you think is going to happen if a new GM is going to come in? Nobody's off limits, right? Dexter Lawrence is 27. He may say, I'm looking to completely knock this thing down and rebuild. Let me get some picks for Dexter Lawrence. Let me potentially trade, like everybody, they're going to knock it down again. So, Nico, I'm of the mindset of let's let him get the quarterback. Let's evaluate in 2 more years. That's where I'm at. And if it fails, rip it up. Then and there, rip it up. And we start over. That's where I'm at. But I'm not going to fight fans who feel otherwise. You have a right to feel that way. The team's been a disaster. Let's see. Envy says the only good thing Joe did last year is hit on all of the draft picks. Well, that's pretty good. That's pretty good to hit on all your draft picks. Most GMs, you're happy if they hit on 3 of them. Now, I'm not defending Joe Schoen's entire draft history. The first 2 drafts were not good. But this past draft so far, we're only a year in, looks good. Looks really good. So, got to give him credit there. He definitely drafted well. The Burns thing hasn't worked out thus far because the team sucks. And obviously people are going to say letting go of Saquon, he rushed for 2,000 yards with Philadelphia, even though I would still contend based off of where the team was and I think most Giant fans would probably still agree with me that they shouldn't have retained Saquon Barkley, but maybe you disagree at this point because it's easy to say now that he rushed for 2,000 yards with the Philadelphia Eagles. The biggest thing they lost with Saquon Barkley walking out the door was his leadership. You can't duplicate that. And then they certainly missed that. And he's a great player. He's fantastic. But based off where the Giants were as an organization, I still don't think it was a great decision to sign him. I was for signing him in 2022, but after you didn't sign him, I never thought that they were going to bring him back. But yeah, I mean, McKinney, clearly, if we could rewind the button, I would have preferred to keep McKinney. Yeah, I would have preferred to keep McKinney. KJ says, glad to see you live. Thoughts on Joe? I mean, again, I didn't get to watch the game, KJ. I saw the highlights. But he had like, 3-4 touchdowns? He had a really good game. Again, I didn't see it. And then he was going up against backups, right? I think Buffalo was playing the backups, if I'm not mistaken. So they didn't have much to play for. But he looked good. Definitely looked like he's at least a very capable backup. So, for everybody that's talking about Milroe, there's an example of a guy that many felt had a really high ceiling that was not a seasoned prospect who looked good in his first game. But I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I just saw the highlights. Assuming we miss out on a quarterback in the draft, do we try to trade for him? I don't even know if he'd be available. But I can't see Joe Milton be the answer to be the starter to start the year. Now, do you want to bring him in for a quarterback competition? I suppose that's a possibility. But I don't even think they'd be looking to trade him. Juan, what's going on, David G? Man, thanks for popping in. Juan says, give the Bills whatever they want for Allen. Why would the Bills ever trade Josh Allen? Why would the Bills ever trade Josh Allen? you would have to give the Bills, this is what you'd have to start with if you wanted the Bills to trade Josh Allen. The next 10 first-round picks, the Empire State Building, and the hot dog cart right outside of Madison Square Garden. You'd have to start there, and that probably doesn't get the deal done. JL says, thank you very much, man. How come they didn't try to trade Barkley and McKinney? Well, who knows? We don't know if they did or didn't. But yes, I think that's a legitimate gripe to have, that where you could say, yeah, why didn't they trade Saquon Barkley if they knew that they were going to let him go? What I'll say is they did get a comp pick, and they wouldn't have gotten that comp pick unless they let both go, because the guys that they brought in were offset by the Saquon contract, so they were able to get a 4th-round comp pick for Xavier McKinney. So I don't know what the market was for those players, but you would have to think, you would hope to think that. And now to be fair, Barkley wasn't playing well. It wasn't his fault. It was the Giants' fault. So I don't know what his market was, but you would like to think you could have got at least a 3rd-round pick for him. So yeah, I think that's fair to say. In hindsight, is they probably should have tried to trade Saquon Barkley. Whether that was a John Mara decision or a Shane decision, I don't know. Let's see. Are we getting comp picks this year? No. The next comp pick we're getting is 2026. 4th-round comp pick for McKinney. Nelson says, Chris, what's your thoughts about Eli Manning reaction about keeping their same people in their same position? Somebody enlighten me in the chat. I missed that. What did Eli Manning say? Somebody enlighten me in the chat. I don't know, Nelson. I missed that. Let's see. Jacob says, Tana, after Hyatt's comments, you see him being a factor. No, I'm not going to say I've completely given up on Jalen Hyatt, but I'm not banking on him. I'm not banking on him at all. Being a big time contributor for this team long term. KJ says, you really think in season last year? I mean, maybe we would have gotten a first for him. Let me know in the chat. Do you think Saquon Barkley mid-season last year, when he was averaging 3.8 yards a carry as a New York Giant, would have gotten a 1st-round pick? Maybe he would have. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It's easy to say now, of course. But do you think mid-season, being that he was going to be a free agent the following year, and you were only going to have him for half a year, you think Saquon Barkley would have gotten a 1st-round pick? I don't think so. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe a second. Maybe. Chris, sign Rodgers. We will bring Adams with him. Rodgers, Adams. I don't see Rodgers coming here, man, for the reason that I said earlier. I don't see Rodgers coming here. OT says, I like Scadaboo's fun. I don't know where's I haven't looked. Where's he going in mocks? Scadaboo, the running back from where does he play again? He plays at Arizona State. Where's he being mocked? That guy's a tough runner, man. Maybe he's 3rd, 4th round if I had to guess. Where's he going? Let's see. Josh says, Shade is right. We're close. All we need is a DT2, cornerback 1, wide receiver 2, interior offensive lineman, right tackle, another safety, linebacker depth, more. I agree with you, Josh. I think I was on the Giants channel. I do the show with weekly when I talked about that. But the Joe Schoen, and I get why he said it. I'm not coming down on Joe Schoen for saying it. At the end of the day, he's a politician. His job is basically to sell the fans and John Mara that they are close, even when they're not. So I'm not condemning Joe Schoen for saying that, but the Giants aren't close. And then a lot of fans came out and said, well, if they just get a quarterback, they are close. Maybe you could make that argument. If they get an elite quarterback, they're close. But by that definition, wouldn't every team in the league be close? Like, wouldn't every team in the league, if they got an elite quarterback, wouldn't they be at least playoff contenders every year? So yeah, that's nonsense. We're not close. We have a lot of needs, right? We need to improve the offensive line. We need to improve the defensive line. We need to improve the secondary. We need another wide receiver. Obviously, need a quarterback. We're not close. Yeah, of course, Cade, man. I'm off this week from work, so obviously big news yesterday. I figured I'd go live talk with you guys. Maybe I'll go live at the end of the week too. We'll see. Let's see. New York State of Mind says, who would you want as the DC if Bowen leaves? I haven't given it any thought because I think Bowen's going to stay. So I honestly haven't given it any thought. I really think Bowen's going to stay. Let's see. I might have missed it, but how much cap space did the Giants? About 60 million, John. I don't know the exact number. I'll look it up right now, but it's right around 60 million. I'll look it up right now, though. I'll tell you. But we all know you could move cap space around, right? 60 million could be more like 100 million. You know, if you sign the players to, you know, a certain way where you move the money around. The Giants right now, according to Over the Cap, have 55 million, right around 55 million in cap space. But like I said, like if you look at our players right now, for example, Andrew Thomas, and I'm not looking at his entire contract, but it was a long contract. His cap number this year is 21 million, which is not that much for a left tackle when you factor in the increased market. They could easily backload $6-7 million of that and spread it over the course of the next 3 or 4 years of the contract. So there's ways to create cap space, not just by restructuring deals of players on the current team, but also by structuring the incoming guys that you bring in a certain way. So they have more than enough money to be aggressive in free agency if they want to be, and I think they're going to be. 22 million is a lot. Well, that's true. That's true. Dad says, Chris, what do you think of the report that Mara was getting feelers for GMs and head coaches behind closed doors and got nothing, so stayed with Schoen and Daboll? Who said that, Dad? Who said it? That's important to me. Who told you that? I'm not saying it's wrong or not, but it depends on who said it. But I'm not saying that that's impossible. That was part of the reason why I thought for sure Joe Schoen was going to be back, because I don't think this is a very attractive destination for a GM to want to come into. If you fired Joe Schoen after just 3 years, you didn't have the first overall pick anymore. So that was a big reason why I thought Joe Schoen was going to be retained. Not the only reason, but one of the probably 4 or 5 reasons why he was going to be retained. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were at least seeing their options. Elijah says, I don't think we're getting Ward nor Sanders. The Titans Browns need a quarterback, especially with Watson injury setback. Now we might not play in 2025. We're screwed. We'll see, Elijah. Maybe I'm dead wrong. I obviously wouldn't be shocked if the quarterbacks go 1-2. Right now, I'm leaning today that they're not going to. I think the Giants are going to get one. But I wouldn't say we're screwed in that point. It's disheartening that we don't end up with a quarterback when we had as bad of a year as we did, but you got to keep building. Maybe you get a veteran free agent quarterback. You got to keep building until you find your guy. But yeah, ideally, I would like to come out with a quarterback in this year's draft that we have confidence in. Let's see. How do you react if we take Gentry 3rd overall? If we take a running back 3rd overall, I don't care how talented he is. If we take a running back 3rd overall, I'll have to buy another laptop, because obviously I'll be live streaming the draft with you guys. I'll rip my laptop in half live on stream. Dead serious. If we take a running back 3rd overall, I will literally snap my laptop over my knee like a backbreaker in wrestling. You'll hear all the computer chips fall over the place, and I'll have to buy a new laptop. Let's see. The Browns are stuck. They're like 19 million over the cap because of the Watson contract. If they like a quarterback, they could still draft one. I don't think that's going to deter them from doing it. I don't think they're going. Maybe I'll be wrong, Blizza. Maybe I'll be dead wrong. I think one of the two quarterbacks are either getting into us at 3 or we're going to trade up to 2 to get one. Let's see. Joe says, look at the Bears even with a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, it could. I mean, the odds tell you it's going to fail. Odds tell you it's going to fail. More often than not, when you draft a quarterback, it doesn't work out. But when it does, look at Washington this year, right? Now you have hope for the next 10 years. So you got to take that swing when you get the opportunity, when you feel there's a worthy quarterback worth taking and you need a quarterback. Antonio Pierce fired? I mean, I think we kind of expected that. You know, it sucks for him. Another coach that only got 1 year. But I'm not surprised. I couldn't believe they fired Gerard Mayo after 1 year, too. It's wild. Wild. Robert says, I go to ASU, and I can tell you Scadaboo's the real deal. Dude, that guy's got calves the size of my head. Chris the Bad Dog's intern says, the best intern in the business, by the way. I think the Browns go vet in free agency. Garrett said he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. Well, they said, I know that what came out this week was Watson still hurt, right? Like he had a setback in the recovery of his injury. Somebody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I read that Watson is either going to miss the entirety of next year, or he's going to be set back, or he's going to miss a portion of next year. Somebody let me know. I'm going to be honest, Angelo. I don't like talking, politics on here because I know it causes fights. I think there's legitimacy to that. I think there's legitimacy to that. I'm being dead honest with you. Because I've seen it happen like 4 times now in the last like 3 years. Let's see. And Raphael says, thoughts on the Wes Steinberg, Art Stapleton beef? Well, we all know that Wes Steinberg is not a real reporter. He's funny. I know Wes Steinberg. I know who he is. I'm not going to say it on the chat. A subscriber of mine. I know who he is. But he's not a real reporter. But it was funny. I laughed. I laughed. Probably not. If I was Art, I'd be pissed off. So I understood where Art was coming from, but I laughed. Let's see. Bring Pearson to be the DC? That'd be cool. I'd be okay with that. Nation says, I think we will be fine. Next year, I think we will be much better. We will be very aggressive because here's the problem, Nations. I think we're going to have a much better team next year. Much better team next year because of what you said. I think we are going to be aggressive. But it's still going to be – when you look at our schedule, man, we play the NFC West. No. We play – who do we play? Our schedule's tough. Whoever we play – let me look at our schedule. We play – when I looked at the schedule, like, oh, my God. We play – I'm just looking at it on my phone as I'm talking to you guys. We play the NFC North, which is the best division in football this year, right? I mean, you got like 3 teams with like that are going to the playoffs: Green Bay, Minnesota, and obviously the Detroit Lions. And you got to figure the Bears will be better. Caleb Williams year 2, you figure they'll be better. So we play the NFC North, and then we play the AFC West, which again, that's no picnic. Kansas City Chiefs, of course, best team in football. Chargers, they're going to be even better next year. Second year with Harbaugh, who I think is among one of the top 3 or 4 coaches in the league. The Raiders, not good, but the AFC West is not a picnic, and the Broncos surprised this year. They're going to the playoffs. And then on top of that, we play the 49ers because they finished last in the NFC West. I mean, our schedule is tough. Our schedule is tough. You look at our home games. I mean, you figure hopefully we win at least one divisional game at home, but you have the Cowboys, the Eagles, Washington, Green Bay, the Vikings, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the 49ers. That's wild. That's wild. And then it doesn't get much better on the road. Like on the road, you still have Detroit, obviously our three divisional opponents. Well, it does get better. The Patriots, the Saints, the Raiders. Those are winnable games. But it's going to be tough to win more than 6 games next year. Just looking at our schedule, it's going to be tough. Now, we don't know what our team's going to be. Our team's going to look like, and I think it will be a better team. I think, like you said, I think we're going to be aggressive. I think we're going to bring in talent, but that schedule is tough, man. Let's see. Yeah, I know everybody's telling me AP got fired. The thinking there has to be that they're trying to bring in a coach that is good for a quarterback, right? Because you have to figure they're going to at least think about drafting a quarterback in this year's draft. That's what that has to be the thinking there. Yeah, I saw that, Eddie. I think and again, we don't know what these teams are going to look like next year. But yeah, based off of this year, based off the schedule that the teams played this year, I think it's like 571 is our strength of schedule. It could be completely different with the draft and everything else. But right now, it looks like a really challenging schedule. Abe says, how about Saleh for DC? I'd be cool with that. I mean, he's not a great head coach, but excuse the dog. He's not a great head coach, but he's obviously a really good DC. Did a great job with the 49ers. I'd be completely fine with that. Some coordinators don't make good head coaches. I would love that. I'm just of the belief we're going to keep Shane Bowen. There's no way he's going to want his son playing for the Tennessee Titans, KJ. Maybe it happens, but there's no way he's going to want his son playing for the tweet or not. The fact they fired a GM after 2 years, that doesn't scream stability. I don't think he wants his son playing for Tennessee. Let's see. Eric says, I also think Bowen got the shit end of he did. I think he's coming back. I don't love him, but I think he's coming back. New York State of Mind says you were supposed to be tough. You were supposed to be the tough opponent on other schedules. Well, we're not. We haven't been for over 10 years. Yeah, everybody's calling for Antonio Pierce to be. I mean, that'd be cool. When Pierce was with Arizona State, he was with Arizona State, right? I can't remember. Was he a defensive coordinator for Arizona State at some point? Obviously, he's a defensive mind. I can't remember. Let's see. Rich says, if we get Travis Hunter and he is a cornerback, I think our defense looks better, more like when we led the league at sacks. Just like, I mean, our defense is certainly going to look better than it did at the end of the year. Just the fact that we'd have Dexter Lawrence in the lineup, right? And hopefully a healthy Kayvon Thibodeau. And yeah, of course, if you improve the cornerback play, it's going to look better. He's going to be aggressive, man. Kyle, I expect Joe Schoen to be aggressive in free agency. It's going to be his most aggressive free agency. That's what I expect. Nick says, every area of our team is bad. Front office, coaching, player development, players. So we have no area that is good to cover up the bad areas. It's all, well, yeah. Well, that's the problem, man. Everything's so bad that it's everybody always wants to point the finger at one thing and say, oh, if we fix that, everything will be fixed. That's not the way it works. So, everybody said, get rid of Daniel Jones. Obviously, we knew the team wasn't going to get better when they got rid of Daniel Jones, but the backups are, not much better. They're worse. So, but once Daniel Jones went, now everybody points the finger at Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. You fire them, and it's just a never-ending cycle. But it's a organizational problem. It's not just one specific individual. It's a mess. Danny says, "You think we trade down if Sanders and Cam are on the board or off the board?" I think you meant to say. So, do you think we get John Miller in the second? Jalen Milroe, I think you meant to say. What other position do we draft? I mean, I never like to go into a draft saying we're definitely going to take this position. Although with Joe Schoen, it's been easier to predict that because it seems like, and I think it's a fair criticism for Joe Schoen in terms of his strategy when it comes to drafting. He does focus on need, more so than you would want your general manager to, at least in my opinion, in certain instances. Now, to be fair to Shane, I think early on in the draft, over the first couple of years, he's kind of blended the two, right? Like you can't argue that Kayvon Thibodeau was most people's best player available. It just so happened to be a major need of ours with an edge rusher. Same thing with Evan Neal, didn't work out, but most people had him high. But as the drafts have gone along, like Josh Azudu, for example, that felt like a need pick. Like that screamed a need pick. Yeah, I don't like to go into a draft saying that I know they're going to draft this position, but with Joe Schoen, that seems to be a pattern that he's drafted for need, maybe more so than you would like him to. You want him to take BPA as the draft, especially as the draft goes along. But I mean, our obvious needs, and right now, it's going to completely change in 3 months after free agency. But right now, our obvious major needs are every position on the football team. No, all kidding aside, quarterback, wide receiver 2, offensive line. You pick the position. Defensive tackle, interior defensive line, and then secondary. That whether cornerback could use another safety. I mean, we got needs all over, man. Yeah, Nick, pretty much. Tyler says, Chris, I think Sanders will force himself to New York. I agree. That's what I said at the top of the stream. That's my prediction. ...2025 schedule, we have Denver, Detroit, Chargers, Kansas City, Green Bay, Minnesota. Yeah, that's our home schedule, right? Or maybe maybe you're just pointing out the toughest opponents on our schedule. Obviously, it's not our home schedule because you didn't mention the divisional games in there. So you just mentioned that. Yeah, it's a tough schedule, man. But again, it's impossible to things change so drastically in the NFL year to year that maybe Minnesota looks a lot tougher now than they will next year. I'm not saying that will be the case, but you don't know. Why do people like the 2024 class so much? Aside from neighbors, who do we really have? I don't get it. Are we starved for talent that we forgot that good players look like? We're okay with mid? Well, I mean, that one guy, to be fair, you're not going to expect the 5th round pick to be a superstar. Or at least you shouldn't. You're not going to expect every pick in the draft to be a Pro Bowler. You want contributors. And you look at the draft right now, and this could change in 2 years, but right now, you're telling me you're not happy with Tyrone Tracy in the 5th round? Are you out of your mind? Of course you're happy with that. You're telling me that you're not happy with Drew Phillips in the 3rd round based off the production he gave you in his rookie year? He was one of the highest graded corners in football. Of course you're happy with that. Yeah, and Newman, when he played, looked good. I'm not going to say he looks incredible yet, but he looked good. Come on. I mean, of course you should be encouraged with this draft class, in my opinion. Let's see. Jacob says, Tana, thoughts on Dorsey as Kafka's replacement? I mean, I'd be happy with that if they go that route. I'm leaning that Kafka's going to be back. Now, what I'll say is the one silver lining if we lose Kafka, who I actually like. I know a lot of Giants fans probably just want to blow everything up because they hate this team. I actually like Kafka. I thought he did a good job as the play caller his first year here with the Giants. We were like top 5 in red zone offense. But if we lose Kafka, if I recall this last year, and I know this because I was talking to JD yesterday, so I looked it up. If the Giants were to lose Mike Kafka, they end up getting a comp pick because he qualifies as a minority candidate. I think he's 25% Puerto Rican. So the Giants would actually, I think it's like a 3rd round comp pick if you lose a coordinator who becomes a head coach elsewhere. So that would be the one good thing if he ended up getting a head coach. And I guess people are starting to worry that we may lose him because he's getting head coach interviews, but it could just be to fulfill the the Rooney Rule. I think where you have to interview. I think it's 2 or 3 minority candidates. So that might be the reason. But if we were to lose him, we would get a third round pick for him. Burrow, that might be the reason, what I just told you. And to be fair, he was highly thought of, before he got the Giants job. So he was highly thought of. And Todd, thank you very much, man. If the Giants miss out on a first-round quarterback, is there a later-round quarterback to like? McCord, Howard, Dart, Beck, Gabriel, Rourke. Lord, please not Milroy. I mean, they're going to take one of those guys. They're going to take a quarterback in this draft if they don't take one in the first round. Todd, man, I'm going to continue to say it. And maybe I'll be dead wrong, man. I've been wrong before. And again, my opinion is subject to change after March. If I see they trade or sign a veteran quarterback, I may change my opinion. But right now, today, I would be borderline surprised if the Giants don't end up with either one of the top 2 quarterbacks. I really do think we're going to end up with one of them. Maybe I'll be wrong. But if they don't, I don't have the name. I haven't even seen who they've gone on visits for yet. Right? I haven't even seen the combine yet. So I don't have a name for who they would target. But if they don't take a first-round quarterback in this year's draft, the only other option that I see is getting a guy like a Justin Fields, who maybe could develop into a starter, kind of like the Vikings did with Sam Darnold. I'm not just saying him specifically. Maybe there's another name in the chat that you want, but someone like that, and drafting a quarterback in the second or third round. They're gonna draft a quarterback. It's just a matter of when. They don't have a quarterback on the roster right now, so they're gonna draft a quarterback. I'm just of the mindset I think it's gonna happen in the first round. And Reclaw says, "Who's the Giants' director of play?" Let me just scroll up. Who's the Giants' director of player development? Eagles and Cowboys have these positions. Would this help our depth? Giants' director of player development? I have no idea. Let me look. What I actually, Anthony, who I do the joint Giants show, Giants Collective with, he brought up a good point that he felt that the Giants should kind of have like I guess I don't remember the exact title that Tom Coughlin had when he was a member of the Jaguars after he left the New York Giants, but basically somebody to like oversee what the GM and the head coach do. He felt like that would be appropriate for the New York Giants with how bad of a job John Mara's done in the past in terms of selecting, upper management, head coaches, GMs. I thought that was a good idea. I don't know if they would do that, but something, not Coughlin specifically, but someone like that. Giants director of player development. Mara's nephew. Well, it might be. His whole family is in the front office, which is another problem we could speak about for weeks. Let me see. Director of player personnel, Tim McDonald, who's been, and I think he is related to Mara, if I'm not mistaken. He's the guy that's been going on all the visits with Joe Schoen. He was at what was the college game that Schoen was at? One of the playoff games. I think he was the guy that was with Joe Schoen for the visit. And I think he is related to Mara, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he is the director of, where is he? I'm looking for his exact title. Where is he? I can't find him on here. Director of player personnel. Maybe that's not it. I don't know, but I know that they it's his nephew. Yeah, they have way too much of his family members in the front office. People have been complaining about that for years. That's not going to change though. He's not going to fire his family members. Damien says Antonio Pierce just got fired. Any of your thoughts on him being our new DC? I mean, that'd be a popular pick. People would love it. I'd be open to it. Maybe I'm wrong, man, Damien. I'm not saying I'm rooting for this. I just tell you guys what I think is going to happen. And I'm not saying like I'm like super confident in this. But if I had to make a prediction, I think Bowen's going to stay. I don't think they're going to replace the DC after just 1 year. but maybe I'll be wrong. But listen, I'd be excited, man, to get Antonio Pierce here for sure. Big Blue Boss says, "Hey Chris, who is your preferred quarterback in this draft?" Let me say this: there's not a quarterback in this draft that I'm like I know for a fact like I'm in love with this guy, but I know in my heart of hearts I know we're gonna take a quarterback. So everybody says Cam Ward, and I get it. I think we're going to end up with Shedeur Sanders. That's really what I believe. I'm not just saying that. That's who I think we're going to end up with. And I know everybody saw his last game, and he didn't look good in the game. I get it. I think Sanders is better than some people give him credit for. I don't think he's elite. But I don't think Cam Ward's elite. That doesn't mean they can't be great pros. If you would have asked me before the draft in 20, and I'm not comparing them to him, I'm not. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But if you would have asked me before Joe Burrow was drafted, do I think he's elite? Like in terms of skill set and traits, I would have told you no. I think he's obviously become an elite quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying that either one of these quarterbacks will be that. But neither one of the quarterbacks I look at and I say, oh my God, that's like a can't miss talent. Now, I did say that about Caleb Williams, as did most people, and he looks horrible his first year. So quarterback's a guessing game, man, and you just have to hope whoever they take works out. That's it, man. And I don't know. I will look at them and give my official prediction before the draft starts. I'm actually slightly leaning Shedeur, and I know that goes against most people. But I'm not absolutely head over heels in love with either quarterback. But I know the Giants are going to take one, and I know they need one. And I think they're going to end up with one of them. Berkey says, sign trade for a vet quarterback, draft hunter, take shots on 2 quarterbacks down the board. It depends what veterans become available, whether it be via trade or whether it be via free agency. It depends. But it's got to be a guy that you could sell the fan base on. You can't roll out Jacoby Brissett in a 3rd-round quarterback. You can't do it. Not with your job on the line. So it depends who becomes available. Yeah, I agree with this, Blizza. I agree with that. I think a lot of times as fans and well, obviously more so the general managers, they take physical traits too much into consideration, and they don't look at the other things. They don't look at mechanics. They don't look at accuracy. There's a lot they don't look at, getting the ball out fast. We know that as Giants fans, the processing speed with quarterbacks. So there's a lot that goes into it. Tom Brady, if we're being honest, now he had a strong arm. But in terms of physical attributes, obviously he didn't. That's why he went in the 6th round or whenever he went. He didn't have any elite traits. So there's a lot more that goes into a quarterback than arm strength and his ability, to run the football. There's a lot more that goes into it than just that. Justin says, people giving Shane shit for his drafts, but let's be honest, people were pretty big on the first. See, I get this argument from both sides, Justin, because I agree. I was ecstatic his second draft when he ended up with Jalen Hyde in the 3rd round, JMS in the 2nd round, Deontay Banks in the 1st round. I was ecstatic when they got Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal his first draft. But to be fair, general managers get paid to have foresight. We don't, right? So, I could make sense of some of the things Dave Gettleman did, but they didn't work out. I can't make sense of everything he did, but I can make sense of the signing of Nate Solder, but it didn't work out, right? So just because you can make sense of something that a general manager did, if it doesn't work out, he's still going to be held responsible for it. So I get both sides of it. And when it comes to a general manager, you as a fan, I think you have to realize that they're not going to hit on every draft pick. You look at the 49ers, they're one of the best, well-ran organizations in football. One of, if not the best, like among the best. They traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. That's catastrophic. But they kept rolling. So you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. So I'm not going to say, oh, just because he missed on the Evan Neal pick, like he needs to be fired because of that. No, general managers make mistakes. But I get both sides of it. I think it's fair to critique him because if we're being honest, of his first 3 drafts, outside of Malik Neighbors, at least so far, how many of those players do you look at and say, that guy is a game changer? That guy is going to be a big part of the future. With Dave Gettleman, like we could all kill Dave Gettleman, as we should. He was a bad GM overall, very bad GM. But look at his drafts in hindsight, right? Look at all that. He had impactful players. Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence. Now, granted, we've had more years to judge these players. We've had 6-7 years to judge these players. That has to be factored in as well. But Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, Julian Love, good player. Darius Slayton's been a good player for the New York Giants. B.J. Hill, not with the Giants, but he turned out to be a good player. And there's a few others. So you look at Joe Schoen and you say, I mean, this year has been encouraging. It's been a good draft. But the 2 prior drafts, at least to date, are not encouraging. So I get it. But, you know, sometimes it takes more time than others for certain players to develop. So we'll have a better understanding of his draft ability in another year or two. When you get another year of Kayvon Thibodeau, when you get another year of Deonte Banks, when you get another year of JMS, when you get another year of the guys that actually perform well this year. So we'll see. But thus far, yeah, I understand why fans are skeptical. Elijah, thank you very much, man. Thoughts on Kirk Cousins as a bridge quarterback? I don't love him, but he's solid. He's not going to embarrass you. He's solid, but I don't love him. He's not a guy that I'm going to go into the year saying, oh, yeah, we're going to the playoffs. His last 4 games or 5 games or whatever it was with the Falcons this year, I think he threw like no touchdowns and 8 interceptions. He looked like a lost puppy dog. So I'm not clamoring for him, but he's fine as a bridge or a mentor for a guy that you may draft who may, if he plays well, maybe you let him play the whole year. If he doesn't, you bring the rookie in quick. That's how I kind of view him. He's not a guy that should be here for more than a year. Nick, man, thank you for being a member. He says, I just don't see how the Browns don't pick a quarterback. I don't think either top 2 quarterback gets to us. I'd love the DT from Michigan, and our D-line would be elite. Mason Graham's one of my favorite prospects in the draft. One of my favorite prospects in the draft. So if we don't get a quarterback, if not for Hunter, who I also really like, Graham would probably, and Abdul Carter is going to be a name that a lot of people throw out there as well. I love Mason Graham, man. I have wet dreams at night thinking about Mason Graham playing next to Dexter Lawrence. I get very excited about that. So I would love that duo for sure in the middle of our defensive line. Jeremy's World, man. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate it, buddy. He says, hey, Chris, you've seen me on Twitter. Of course I have, man. I see you all the time on Twitter. Being a big Shador fan, but I think him and Ward will be picked before 3 because quarterbacks need in demand. Get Hunter, and him and Neighbors will be insane for the next quarterback. See, Jeremy, I think Hunter's going to be a cornerback before he's a wide receiver. Now, I think he'll play wide receiver, but I don't think he's going to play more than 10 or 15 snaps a game. I think he's going to be a full-time cornerback, part-time wide receiver. But, of course, he'll still help in the passing game. I would love Travis Hunter if we don't get a quarterback. I think he's a great player. You can make an argument when all is said and done, Malik Neighbors is going to be the best player in last year's draft. I know Jaden Daniels is the player that you would take. He's the quarterback, but Malik Neighbors is insane. And I think you can make that same argument for Travis Hunter this year. He's immensely talented, but if one of those quarterbacks drop and you like one, I think they'll go quarterback, but we'll have to wait and see. Bryce says, number 3 will probably have Hunter available. Will teams spend huge capital and move up for Hunter? Will we be interested in that? I mean, it always depends on the package. You know, if the Giants are looking to trade down at that point, it all depends on the package. But my guess is if it's not for a quarterback, you're probably not going to be blown away with the package. Usually teams are willing to overspend for a quarterback. You're probably not going to get an incredible deal for somebody to move up for Travis Hunter. And at that point, you take a pick. And if you think he's the best player in the draft, you take him. Peter says Neighbors. I hope not, man. I'm going to tell you what, man. How good is that guy? How good is that guy? Dude, that the last 2 or 3 games of the year, getting to watch Malik Neighbors, man, I have nothing but respect for that guy. Like, everybody coming into the year is saying how, character concern, he's not going to fit in New York. I thought he handled the New York media beautifully. Beautifully. You know, I think a lot of times fans think that like you need to have like this cookie cutter personality to deal with New York. Like you have to be like Eli Manning or you have to be like Derek Jeter. I don't think that's the case at all. I think you could be yourself, but you have to know how to handle the media. But I think fans and the media respect you if you're. I think a perfect example of this is the New York Knicks. Perfect example of this is the New York Knicks. Jalen Brunson is the most boring personality there could be. And I love Jalen Brunson, but he's very, blah, right? He's not going to give you any sound bites. He's very blah. People love him. Media loves him. Josh Hart is the complete opposite. Josh Hart is in your face, but he's himself. He's got a personality and he's respectful and he knows how to handle the media. I think Malik Neighbors, for a 21-year-old, did a tremendous job in that aspect. And a lot of people were worried about that coming into the year. And on the field, Malik Neighbors is insane. I think he's going to be one of the top 2 or 3 receivers in the league. You get this guy a good quarterback, he's going to be incredible. He had the most catches ever by a New York Giant in a single season. Then people say, oh, well, he had 170 targets. Well, yeah, you're going to need a lot of targets to have 110 catches or whatever he had. But you also got to be able to get open to get that many targets. And with the quarterbacks that the Giants had throwing him the football, the last 2 or 3 weeks, he looked tremendous coming back from that injury. I can't wait to see Malik Neighbors continue to get better as a New York Giant. Let's see. Beaker says, I'm really looking forward to the offseason with more. Yeah, man, I will definitely have more content out as the offseason gets going for sure. We'll see what they do with the defensive coordinator. If they do something on that, I'll probably have a video on that. We'll see. But obviously, as free agent gets closer, we'll have videos on that. I'm going to try to do a weekly live stream with you guys solo. Maybe we'll get the Bad Dog Show back up and running as well. For sure, we'll get that up and running. So definitely look forward to talking Giants with you guys, man. I just needed I just couldn't talk about this team in season anymore. It just drains me, man. I just don't enjoy it when the team is as bad as they are, and there's nothing to talk about other than to just completely destroy the team until the season's over, and then you talk about how you could fix it. It's just worn me out at this point. It's a continuous cycle. So now that there's something to talk about to hopefully build off of and a direction, I'm looking forward to that, man. I've been excited to talk about that. Sam says, what have Schoen and Daboll done to show that they are the right guys for the franchise? Nothing. Can't wait for the job-saving spending spree and free agency. Nothing. But I'm gonna answer a question for you, Sam. I'm gonna have a follow-up question for you. What has John Mara done in recent history to give you any confidence that the guys he brings in to replace Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are going to get the job done? How much confidence do you have in that? Because my mindset is, at this point, let him carry it out. You brought him in here to try to fix this team. It's not good right now, but they finished getting rid of the old regime's players. Let them get the quarterback and give them 2 more years. If it doesn't get good after that, rip it up. Bring in the next 2 guys who will probably fail. So it's like no matter what they did, I wasn't going to celebrate. If they fired Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, okay, bring in somebody new, and you're probably not going to get the most qualified candidate because they're probably not going to want to come in. The best candidates aren't going to be screaming to take this job after you fired the GM who replaced Dave Gettleman and left him with a shitstorm, and you gave him 3 years, really 2, when you factor in he couldn't sign anybody the first year because of the awful salary cap situation that was left over for Joe Schoen. So I don't think the best candidates are going to be running to take the job, especially being that you no longer have the first overall pick. So it was kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. That was my outlook on it. I didn't have confidence either way. Let's see. And Christian Bad Dog's intern says, we're going to have to trade up or risk getting jumped. Swap first and a fourth or next year's third. Maybe Hyatt, you think it gets it done? What do I mean, I'd have to go back and look. What's up, Arcade, man? Thanks for popping in the stream, man. I'd have to go back and look. let me see. What I'm going to look at as an example for what I think the trade would be if the Giants were to trade up would be the Chicago Bears trade with the 49ers when the Bears, because it's the exact same trade, right? The Bears jumped from 3-2 to get Trubisky. Hopefully the quarterback would end up being a lot better than Trubisky. But let me look at that trade. Because I think, that's what I always like to look at when we talk about these, because we have direct evidence of what it's cost in the past. So when the Bears jumped from 3-2, they gave up it wasn't a lot. They gave up a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. So that was the trade. They jumped from 3-2, and they gave their 3rd-round pick, which was 67 overall in that draft, and their 4th-round pick, which was 111 in that draft, to ensure that they got the quarterback they wanted. So that's a good barometer for what it would cost. If the Giants had to trade up from 3-2 to get a quarterback they wanted, it would be something like that. The 3rd round and 4th round pick in this year's draft. Maybe it could be a 3rd and a future 4th, but something like that. That's what you're looking at for like a 1-pick jump that early in the draft. Let's see. Let's see. They could have replaced Jones 2 years ago. They could have. But Sam, here's my question to that. Who would you replace them with? And I mean, I guess the obvious answer with hindsight, most people are going to say is Baker Mayfield. But would Baker Mayfield have been successful here? Do you know that? I don't know that. So yes, obviously, if we could go back in the time machine, yeah, we would have replaced Daniel Jones even after winning a playoff game because we know how it turned out. But what was the realistic alternative? Realistic. Let's see. That's how I think it would have turned out. If I'm being honest, Joe, we'll never know. We can't go in the DeLorean. But yeah, I think that whoever was the quarterback, I'm not saying they wouldn't have been better than Daniel Jones. They probably would have been, but the team wouldn't have been very successful, and they would have been the punching bag. Let's see. Den says, Chris, do you trust Daboll to groom the next quarterback? We draft assuming we will. I don't know if I would use the word trust, but at least he has credentials and he's had success with quarterbacks in the past, and he hasn't had a whole lot to work with at that position thus far. So, I mean, let's be fair. I mean, not to say that the offense looked good this year. It didn't. It was awful. But let me ask the chat. What was Daniel Jones's best year as a pro? What was Daniel Jones's best year as a pro? 2022, right? I mean, I would say so. He won a playoff game. He looked really good in that playoff game. He had the lowest interception percentage in the entire NFL. I would say that was his best year as a pro. What was Tommy DeVito? He made Tommy DeVito look decent. An undrafted pizza flipper looked decent last year at the quarterback position. So, I mean, now, Sam, if you say rookie year, you're not being fair. If you say rookie year, you're just looking at stats. Daniel Jones' rookie year, the team won 4 games. They beat like the 4 worst teams in the NFL, and he compiled all of his stats against those shitty teams. Out of the 24 touchdowns he threw, I think like 15 of them were in like 3 games. And they were all against horrible teams. He had 12 interceptions. He probably should have had like 18 or 19. They dropped a ton of interceptions that year, and he had like 20 fumbles. His best year was 2022 under Brian Daboll. And he made Tommy DeVito look decent. So I'm not saying he's going to be successful, but I'll give him a chance. I'll give him a chance. Let's see. Jay says you're the best in the biz, bro. Go. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate all you guys. Murdoch says I wanted them fired. I really dislike them both, but I am okay with keeping them for another year. I guess I have to be. I mean, what choice do you have at this point, right? I mean, we could sit and be miserable. We could sit and be miserable, for the next year or two if they're here, and if they fail and say I told you so. I'm just gonna hope that they get the job done. Like I knew Shane was coming back. It was fairly obvious. So I just said to myself, okay, that's what's going to happen. Let's hope that Joe Shane gets the job done next year when he drafts a quarterback. Some fans are going to the thing is, this is just the way I think. Having the mindset of always taking the stance that it's not going to work out and being negative. That's the easiest stance in the world. That's the easiest stance in the world, because if the team doesn't win a Super Bowl, or the team doesn't make the playoffs, which more than likely they won't, you're always going to be right. I don't take that stance. I'm not telling you it's going to work out, but I'm going to give things a chance to develop, and I'm going to try to understand why the Giants made the decisions that they did. Everybody thinks differently. That's the way I think. I'm going to give Joe Shane an opportunity to get this thing right. I'm not guaranteeing you it's going to work. What I am telling you is I agree with the decision to keep him, because I don't think that the alternative was much better. And I want to see the Giants play. You might kill me for saying this. You might kill me for saying this if you're listening. And I don't really care, because I know where the fan base is. I know where the fan base is. 95% of the fan base wants John Mara to go to hell. You might kill me for thinking this. I respect. I'm not telling you he's going to get it right. I'm not telling you he's going to get it right, because I'm doubtful no matter what they did, it was going to go right. I'm not telling you that John Mara is going to get it right, but I respect John Mara for not caving to the fan base and not caving to the media pressure and doing what he felt was the right thing to do. Whether or not it works out, I don't know, but I respect him for sticking to his guns. That's the way I look at it. And I want an owner that has conviction. And I want an owner that's going to see things through. So from that standpoint, I'm happy that John Mara did what he did. I didn't want the fan base to make the decision for the New York Giants, because that's what the worst organizations do. That's what the New York Jets do. That's what the Cleveland Browns do. That's why the Cleveland Browns have 9,000 quarterbacks over the last 10 years. That's why the New York Giants they fire their head coach after 5 weeks. They fire their general manager mid-season. So I respect that John Mara stuck to his guns. And I don't care if 95% of the fan base hates me for saying that. That's my honest opinion. Let's see, Murdoch. Big Blue says, I agree, Chris. Mara gained some respect for me. I enjoyed his press conference. Yeah, I mean, I didn't love everything that he said from within the press conference. I thought he could have worded some things in different ways, but I am happy that he. I'm not saying it's going to work, but I don't want a dysfunctional owner that just caves to everything the fan base wants. I'm a fan. I'm telling you that I think too emotionally. We all do. We're fans. It may not work. Good chance it won't. But and Abe says, be glad Mara didn't fire one to keep the other. Abe, I'm gonna be honest. I really thought that's what he was gonna do, because thinking about it from the mindset of Mara, and I really think that's what was gonna happen. But I think Joe Shane talked him out of it. I think Joe Shane said that he thought Daboll was the best option. But thinking of it from the mind of Mara, if he would have fired Daboll, it would have given Joe Shane a longer leash, because you would have brought in a new head coach, new quarterback, and the fan base really couldn't have demanded wholesale change after just 1 year with a head coach and 1 year with a quarterback the following year. You're not going to fire the GM and then force the head coach and the quarterback on him. So I really thought that was the approach that John Mara was going to take. And I really think that's the approach he was going to take. But in the end, he ended up sticking with both, and it is what it is, man. I hope it works out, man. But I actually respect an owner that doesn't cave to the pressure from the fan base and the media. Obviously, I want the owner to get it right, and maybe the fan base is right on this. They very well may be. But that's just my mindset on it. Jason says, too bad your fellow podcasters aren't positive. I don't even view that as being positive. I just think differently than, I guess, my fellow podcasters. I'm not even trying to display a positive message. I'm not positive that this team is going to get it right. I'm hopeful that they're going to get it right. I'm not. I told you, it was a fork in the road, and I thought both situations, it's probably not going to work out. It's more likely it won't work out than it will. But I thought this was the best alternative, given the circumstance. We'll see what happens. Juan, man, thank you for being a member. He says, I feel we should draft the quarterback every draft. Let's just draft best player available and keep building the lines. I'm not against that. I'm not saying that you need to draft the quarterback in the first round every draft. I think that's a mistake because then you're clearly reaching, because every year it's not going to work out that the quarterback where you're picking is going to be worth that pick. But I'm not against that until you get it right. Drafting or taking a shot on the quarterback second, third round. The Eagles have taken that approach. It obviously worked out for them. I'm not against that, especially being that right now we don't have one. Now, once you get your franchise quarterback or the guy that you hope is your franchise quarterback, you won't feel the need to do that. But until we get a guy like that, yeah, I'm not against that. Nobody wants to know here that's going to cave to what the fans want. I want to know whether they could come to the same conclusion on his own. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, SJ. So in a way, and I'm not telling you that I'm confident that it's going to work, but I'm glad that we have an owner that did what he felt was the right thing to do. Blizz says we only drafted one quarterback in the past 10 years. Now, to be fair, Blizza, in the first round, to be fair, Blizza, you weren't going to draft a quarterback in the first round until the tail end of Eli Manning's career. But at this point, that's within the last 10 years because it's 2025. So, yeah, you're only going back to 2015. Yeah, I mean, if we could go back in the DeLorean, of course, we would have taken Pat Mahomes in, I think it was 2017, was it? If we could have traded up to get him. We don't know for a fact we would have been able to. But if we could have, of course, we would have done that. Once you took Daniel Jones, you weren't going to draft a quarterback the very next year. But, yeah, I mean, if we could, now knowing how it transpired, of course, you go and take Justin Herbert the following draft. But, yeah, it is what it is. Marshall, man, thank you very much. Hey, Joe Milton. He played well. I mean, to be fair, it was against Buffalo's backups, but he played well. I don't know what it would cost to trade for him or if New England would even be open to trading him. Obviously, he's not the starter there. Drake May is, but I don't even know what the cost would be. But he's not a guy I have like extreme confidence is going to be the long-term starter if we trade for him. But he looked good. Let's see. What's up, Duncan, man? Thanks for popping in, man. I'm not giving up a first rounder. No. Well, Blizz, that wasn't the trade, though. And I'm not even saying I would do it, but that wasn't the trade. The trade was a swap of first round picks, in the exact scenario previously. So we give up 3, we get 2. So we gain a pick in the first round. And then they gave up a third and a fourth round pick. So you're essentially giving up a third and fourth round pick to move up a spot to ensure you get your quarterback. That was the exact trade back in 2017 when a team jumped from 3 to 2 to get a quarterback. Thanks for figuring out what I wrote because I couldn't even figure it out after I read it. Speakerphone picked it up wrong and I didn't edit. No, don't. I try my best. Sometimes I don't get what you guys say, but I try to make sense of it. Let's go after McKee. Well, they're not going to trade McKee to the Giants. What's funny, I remember watching McKee at Stanford. If you and I was going in and out with the Giants Eagles game because it was so bad. Like I was watching it the entire time, but I wasn't like dialed in because I just wanted the season to end. But I remember watching McKee when he was at Stanford. If there was ever a prospect that reminded me of Daniel Jones, it was McKee. Now I don't know how he looked in that game, but when he was at Stanford, they ran the offense. I don't know what it's called. It's not really an RPO. It's somebody in the chat let me know. They would basically like hold the ball in the running back's gut for like 5 seconds. Like it's almost like a delayed RPO. It's just a weird offense. But just the way that he moved, you know how like Daniel Jones kind of moves like he's a robot. That McKee reminded me of Daniel Jones so much when I would watch him play. And just his size and his traits. If there was ever the read option, there you go. If there was ever a quarterback that reminded me of Daniel Jones as a prospect, it was him. But yeah, I don't want McKee, and the Eagles would never trade him to us anyway. AJ, thanks for popping on, man. What draft pick would you redo in the past 5 years? I wish we took Parsons over Tony and Neal, and to be honest, a lot of Giants fans wanted him at the time. Well, I would have loved Parsons during that draft. I just knew we were never going to take him because of what came out, and we know how the Giants are when it comes to sketchy, stuff, right? I mean, the whole Penn State thing. So I knew we weren't going to take him. So at that point, I graduated my mindset to that I wanted Rashawn Slater, which obviously either one would have been great in comparison to what we got. I think we would love Rashawn Slater also. But yeah, if we go back in time, I think that's probably. Well, I mean, no. If you could tell me any pick, if we go back in time with pick number 2 in 2018, I would want Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. One of those quarterbacks, whoever you think's the better one. I personally think Josh Allen's better, but you could certainly make a strong case for Lamar Jackson. But if we go back in time, it would be 2018 taking a quarterback. Let's see. Nico says, super refreshing opinion. Well said. Appreciate that, Nico, man. Thanks for being here, man. Yeah, man. I'm gonna be honest, man. I not that I'm scared. I just don't. What, at least on Twitter, on YouTube, it's more controlled. It's my audience. You could leave and be here as you choose. We could disagree. We could agree, but it's civil. On Twitter, it just gets like, I don't know. It gets toxic. I get not scared, but it's just like I'm not motivated to give my opinion like that on Twitter because you get attacked. People call you a shill. I'm a shill because I disagree with your opinion because I think every time that the fan base wants to blow it up, I don't necessarily agree with you. I'm a shill for that. It's just I don't enjoy fighting with Giants fans at that level like people do on Twitter. But that's honestly how I feel, man. That's honestly how I feel. And no, John Mara didn't pay me to say that. I don't love John Mara. I don't think he's a great owner. Let's see. That's what they call you on. They call you a shill. That's like the terminology they use, Blizzard. They ripped apart Art Stapleton because he voiced his true opinion. They call you if you side with anybody but them, you're a shill. I think basically what it means is like you stick up for the Giants no matter what. Basically, you're on the payroll. Stupid. Let's see. What's up, Kurt, man? Thanks for popping in, man. Yeah, that's what it basically means, if we're being honest. Anybody that disagrees with I call it the loud minority, because I don't think most Giant fans think like Giants fans on Twitter, but they have a big voice on that platform. The loud minority, if you disagree with them, you're a shill. Yeah, your DJ Dre. Yeah, yeah. I would never do that again. But yes, I wasn't happy with that pick. World Heaviest Jam Band says, tough season. I'm just an autopilot waiting to see when this team gets back on track, and I'm not thinking it's going to be back next year. I don't know. If you're expecting the Super Bowl next year or playoffs, I mean, you never know. It's the NFL. That's what's great about the sport, but I'm not setting that expectation next year. I just hope it gets better, man. Nick says, I just hope Joe Shane doesn't mortgage his future for a quarterback. Yeah. Yeah. Jacob says, Tana, is us drafting Genty gonna get you a viral? Yes. If they did that, I would break the internet with my reaction. It's not going to happen. Chris, do we sign Tibbs to a 5th-year extension? No. What'll be interesting, actually, that's a tough one, actually. How much is the 5th-year option? I'd have to look that up. I don't know it right now. How much is the 5th-year option for Thibodeau? I don't think they should. I'm not saying that they shouldn't extend him if he has a good year next year. I'm not saying that's the case. But I don't know if I would want to commit what it would be. It all depends on how much it is. It all depends on how much the 5th-year option is. But I don't know if I would want to commit that. He's definitely shown glimpses of being a really good player, but it hasn't been enough. $16 million? That's tough, man. Because the projected salary cap in 2026 is got to be about $300 million. So $16 million it sounds like a lot, but it's only 5% of the cap. A little bit more than 5% of the cap. That's tough. That's tough. I think I would. I'm not gonna be upset if they don't. I will completely understand if they don't. I think I would. It kind of is like insurance. If he has a big year, you have him on the 5th-year option, and you don't have to. That's tough, though. That's tough. That's tough. Because he's coming off a disappointing year. Obviously, a lot of it due to the injury. That's a coin flip for me. I don't think that's an easy answer. That's a good question. No, he's worth more than that. He's worth more than that. Come on. I'm not telling you he's worth 15, 16 million, but he's worth more than 3 million. Alan, man, thank you very much, man. Prediction next season with a rookie quarterback and solid O-line. Well, I mean, it depends on how good the rookie quarterback is, right? I mean, if he's as good as Jaden Daniels, we might win 9 or 10 games. So it all depends on how good the quarterback is. But I'm going to go in with moderate expectations. I'm going to go in with I'm going to go in being cautious. My bare minimum expectations for next year, assuming they draft a quarterback early in the draft. My bare minimum expectations for next year where I'm happy. I'm not ecstatic, but I'm happy. I'm okay. We have something to build off of. We have something to grow with. My bare minimum expectations that I need from the New York Giants next year, if they take a quarterback early in next year's draft, is I need to see growth from the quarterback over the course of the year. And by the end of the year, I need to have at least some type of confidence that this guy has the possibility of being a franchise quarterback. The wins and losses doesn't mean much to me if you're drafting a quarterback that early. Of course, I want to make the playoffs, but I'm not going to go into the year with playoff expectations if we're starting a rookie quarterback. I'm going to hope, but if I leave that year saying to myself, Cam Ward or insert quarterback's name here can become a franchise quarterback, I will say to myself, okay, we have something to build off of. We got to turn it up. We got to raise the level of expectation year 2. So that's going to be my mindset going into the year. If they win 6 games, but the quarterback is getting progressively better over the course of the year, that's a win for me. I'm okay with that season. Obviously, you want to win the Super Bowl every year as a fan, but that's going to be my mindset going into the year. It's going to be based on the quarterback. If we take a quarterback that early, how confident am I in this quarterback that he can continue to get better and eventually be a quarterback that could get us to the promised land? If he bombs, then obviously it's a deflating year. Keith, man, thank you very much, man. Salute, Dana. This is the worst year for me as a fan because I don't know where we are going. Conflicting messages, no accountability on all levels. Who are we? Yeah, I get it. This is just my take, Keith. It's just an opinion. I know a lot of people took what John Mara said yesterday, and they took it as he just set a playoff mandate. He just basically said if Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll don't make the playoffs next year, or don't at least contend until the very end to make the playoffs next year, he's blowing this up. And when you hear him say what he said, I absolutely understand why fans would feel that way. Now, I'm not telling you he's giving them a free pass all of next year. If the team wins 2 or 3 games and the quarterback shows no growth, he's probably blowing it up. And he's going to let a new GM come in here and draft a quarterback. But I viewed it as what he said more as lip service to the fans. To say to the fans, I feel how you feel. I'm just as discouraged with this team as you are. I'm just as upset as you are. I'm losing patience in this team. I need to see growth. That's the way I took it. I didn't view it as if we draft a quarterback with the 2nd or 3rd overall pick and that quarterback has a good rookie year and we win 6 games, then I'm going to blow it up. That's not how I viewed it. I view it as if they draft a quarterback and the quarterback is showing promise, we're going to see this thing through. We're going to give them another year with it. That's how I'm viewing it. I understand why fans took it a different way, and maybe I'm wrong. But I can't imagine that John Mara would have brought these two back with the assumption that they're going to draft a rookie quarterback and expect them to make the playoffs next year with the schedule that they have. I can't imagine that. I viewed it as more as lip service than anything else to cater to the fans. Catholic man, he says, random, but did you listen to Opie and Anthony Stern? Of course. I was more of a Stern guy, but yeah, I listened to Opie and Anthony a bit. I was more of a Stern guy. I actually remember when I was going to I used to drive to college. It used to be about 45 minutes to get to school every day. And I remember I would listen to Howard Stern on K-Rock like every day. And I remember one time he was live, and he used to fight with Imus all the time. And he was live at the same time that Imus was. Imus was on the Fan. He used to have the morning show on the Fan before Carton and Boomer took over. And they were fighting with each other on each other's programs at the same time. And I remember I was flipping back and forth. But yeah, I used to listen to Howard Stern all the time. He was great. Little Bulldozer says, I'm such a huge fan of Joy Taylor. Apparently so is Fox. Fox is a fan of Joy Taylor. The entire network, apparently. Good for them. Good for her. Let's see. Jacob says, Tana, you really think we go big at receiver? We already have Wandell and Leak out of wide receiver. Yeah, I do. I think we're going to add a wide receiver. I think they're going to add a legitimate wide receiver too in the offseason. A lot of the guys who worked with her are huge fans. They know her very well. Let's see. You know Beetlejuice, the movie, of course. Oh no, you're talking about. I thought you meant the movie. Yeah, yes, I know Beetlejuice. Yes, from the radio show. Yes. At least we got the Knicks. Even the Knicks have been disappointing the last 3 games. They've lost 3 straight. I'm gonna tell you what about the Knicks, man. They got to improve that bench. You know, I was arguing. My sister's a big Knicks fan. I was arguing with her. She seems to think the bench is going to be fine. She just wants Mitch to get back, and I'm excited to get Mitch back too. I think we need to improve that bench a little bit, man, because those starters, they've been wearing down the last 2 or 3 games. That it was so discouraging because the first half against the OKC Thunder, the Knicks played their best half of the year. They were awesome, and then in the second half, they just were winded. They got to get the bench, but they got to improve that bench, man. Let's see. But yeah, the Knicks are still great. Alan says, what free agents would you want? How much cap space? We talked about that earlier. We have about $60 million of cap, and that's without, potentially restructuring Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence. They have plenty of money if they want to be aggressive in free agency. Let's leave it at that. And what I expect them to do is they're going to sign a quarterback. It's just a matter of which one and what's the plan. Are they going the high budget? Are they going the Sam Darnold option, which I don't think will happen? Or are they going more of the mid tier, like a Justin Fields? Or are they going more the low tier, like a Jacoby Brissett? But they're going to sign a quarterback in free agency. I think they're going to sign a wide receiver. I think they're going to spend more towards the top of the market there, like a Godwin or a T. Higgins. I think that they're going to spend more towards the top of the market for a corner. Reed was a name we mentioned. And then the offensive line, same thing. I think middle to near top of the market for an offensive lineman. I think they're going to be aggressive, man. I think they're going to spend this offseason. Nate, thank you very much, man. Just tuned in. Sorry if you're bringing already. No, don't apologize, man. But happy both are back. Shane and I am so relieved, Nate, by the way, that it seems like the majority of you guys in the chat, because I didn't know what to expect before I went live today. I'm going to be dead honest with you. I am so relieved that the majority of the people in the chat, I don't know if they're happy that Schoen and Daboll are back, because it's not much to be happy about if you're a Giants fan. I think relieved is the right word for some of them, but at least open to the fact that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are back with the New York Giants. I didn't know what to expect before I went live. I honestly, because if you look at Twitter, I thought the pitchforks were going to be out. Almost everybody thinks that they needed to be fired and without question. So I'm kind of relieved that at least people are open-minded. So it seems like at least the majority of you guys feel that way. So I'm relieved. Let's see. Never had a fair chance to build with the roster with little cap. With his scouts, he crushed the 24 drafted solid free agency in 2024. Yeah. I wouldn't use the term optimistic for Shane, but I'm glad that they didn't blow it up. I wanted him to get another couple of years with this team. That was my outlook on it. Maybe Miguel. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't know if like I said, I don't know if the right term is happy, but it doesn't seem like people want to burn down the world. Formula Red says the Schoen and Daboll situation is no different than Shane saying we are rolling with Jones on Hard Knocks, knowing deep down he's trash and not the guy. You talking about Joe Schoen when you say that, or you're talking about the Schoen and Daboll situation is no different than Shane saying we are rolling with Jones on Hard Knocks? Yeah, I mean, the way that I took it when he said we're rolling with Jones on Hard Knocks was based off the fact we can't trade up. He's our quarterback this year. And they tried to see if he could grow and get better. He didn't. I don't know. I am not confident at all that Schoen and Daboll are going to work. I'm also not confident at all that Mara was going to pick guys that were going to do a better job. It's a tough spot to be in. That's my mindset. So I'm not like overly thrilled that they're back, but I'm also I wanted them to see it through. So I'm cautiously, I don't even want to use the word optimistic. I don't know what I am, but I wouldn't have been any more excited if they fired him. Let's see. People got to understand the first couple of years are spent getting the people he wanted in the positions to run an offseason. 24 is the proof of the team finally having his team. Well, yeah, the first year they couldn't do anything because they had no cap space. And then the last 2 years, they were basically shoveling out the old players that they didn't want to build long-term with. Whether or not that turns out to be the right decision or not, we'll see over the next couple of years. Hopefully this 2024 draft continues to grow, and hopefully the two previous drafts get better. Do you think fans would be less mad at Joe Schoen if they gave Jones an average contract and not that gigantic one? No. Like they'll say that they would have been, but no, because the team still would have sucked. So at the end of it, that's just my opinion, NV. And people will say without the power of evidence that if they signed Baker Mayfield, the team would have been good. I don't think the team would have been good. This team sucks. The Tampa Bay Bucks made a Super Bowl like a couple of years ago. They had a good team. So if the team would have performed the way I think they would have, maybe they win an extra couple of games. Fans still wouldn't have been happy. They still would have been calling for their heads. Let's see. Michael says the fact remains that each year they progressively got worse, culminating this year with a franchise record of losses. There's no defending that, which is why I can't fight anybody that wanted to fire him. There's no defending that. Team was awful. You can make an argument that at the end they were trying to lose, but it really doesn't matter. Like, or maybe not trying to lose, but at least not caring too much if they won or lost, I guess you could say, after like week 11. Not to say that the players weren't trying, but all of a sudden everybody on the team's getting hurt. They cut Daniel Jones. Regardless, the team at best was going to win 4 or 5 games this year. So yeah, it was a disaster of a season. There's no defending it. Let's see. Joe Judge equals Daboll. How does the chat feel about that? How does the chat feel about that? You guys agree with that? You think that Daboll is going to end up being a failure like Joe Judge was, or do you have some hope that given a quarterback, he could start to turn this thing around? How do you guys feel about that? Daboll way better. Daboll better than Judge. Maybe a failure, but not like Judge. KJ says I have hope. What you think we should do with the third pick? I mean, it depends. G4. What I think we should do and will do are two different things. And when I answer these questions, I think of it from the mindset of Joe Schoen, because that has to be factored in. So factoring in that he's the 4th year as the general manager for the New York Giants, factoring in that we don't have a quarterback. I mean, I could tell you what I think they should do. The safe answer is to say that they should just trade back and accumulate draft picks, because you're almost never going to be wrong with that, unless the quarterback turns out to be a franchise quarterback. But factoring in that it's Joe Schoen's 4th year, the answer for me is if he likes a quarterback and he could get one, he takes one. That's the answer. We'll find out if he does, and we'll find out if he has the opportunity to do it. Let's see. Danny Dunn says, remember when you said DJ would have been? I basically said it would have been if he would have matched his 2022 year. He didn't. So it was not. I was wrong. I was wrong. It is what it is. Yeah, I was wrong. It didn't work out. I put too much faith in the fact that I thought a second year with Daboll, who at the time, I think we all agreed, he won Coach of the Year, was able to get something out of Daniel Jones that we didn't see. And I said, okay, at worst in 2022, Daniel Jones was an average quarterback, starting quarterback, at worst. So I said, okay, even if he's an average quarterback, you look at what the quarterbacks are getting now. At $40 million a year, an average starting quarterback in the NFL is a bargain. He regressed. Sorry, I was wrong. I told you it was gonna be, sun with a chance of clouds, and it was a thunderstorm. I was wrong. Alan says, if we had Barkley, easily 7-8 win team this season. Why? Why do you say that though? Why do you say that? What? Well, the Giants had Barkley last year, and they sucked. Why would they have won 8 games this year with Saquon Barkley? I know that Saquon ran for 2,000 yards, but he wasn't running for 2,000 yards with the Giants. So what? Maybe they win 2 more games, but I don't think they win 8 games. What's up, Lloyd, man? Thanks for popping in, man. I mean, he had 22 touchdowns, Danny Duds. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, and he had like 800 yards rushing. That has to be factored in, though. Like if you just look at Josh Allen, people saying Josh Allen should be the MVP this year. 28 touchdowns or whatever he has, not MVP numbers, but he has 14 rushing touchdowns. So he had 22 touchdowns. He only had 5 interceptions. He had a good year. I'm not saying he was great. He had a good year. We could admit that. I know you hate the guy, but we could admit he was an average quarterback in 2022. He won a playoff game on the road. He was an average starting quarterback in the NFL. Can you admit that? I admit that he was awful after that. He was awful after that. Let's see. What's up, Lloyd, man? Thanks for popping in. He didn't fumble at all in 2022. He didn't have a lot of fumbles. What's up, Kyle? Said a lot of us fans like Fields, me included, for the Giants. Do you think he potentially limits the offense and Neighbors' production? The problem I see with Fields, and I'm okay with Fields if you want to sign him and also draft a quarterback. But the problem I have with Fields in terms of being a guy that could potentially be like the long-term answer for the New York Giants, and I don't get to watch him every week like I did with Daniel Jones. But the problem from the when I have watched Fields is the same things we complain about with Daniel Jones, people complain about that with him. They talk about his inability to process. So I don't view maybe I'll be wrong. I hope I am if we go that route. I don't think Fields would be a guy that I'd have confidence in being a guy that could develop into the long-term answer at the quarterback. But he could be a guy that is able to play the position for a year or two. And, if you draft like a 2nd or 3rd round quarterback, perhaps. Man, I'm Team Shane until the casket drops. I didn't forget the mess he was forced to clean up with Gettleman. All right, Blizzard. Well, that we could agree on. Danny Dudd's ghost. We shouldn't have never drafted him. My draft reaction told you I agree with you on that. That we can agree on. Nate says, what about Aller at 3? Heard he's lots of scouts quarterback 1. I don't think he's coming out. I mean, maybe he'll change his opinion, but a lot of people have asked me about that. Maybe there's something I haven't heard yet. But last I heard, he said he wasn't coming out, and maybe that'll change. But as of now, he's not coming out. Abe says, just draft BPA. We need talent, not bodies. I mean, we need a quarterback, and I love Cam, and it's a good mix of BPA need, but drafting for need, not usually a good strategy. Yeah, I think that's the one position where you bend the rule a bit, right? Is quarterback a little, which is why quarterbacks often get drafted a lot higher than most people feel they should. Why you have to trade more for that specific position when you trade up to get one. So I think that's the one position that you bend the rules a bit. But overall, yeah, I think most fans would agree with you that you want to draft best player available. I think you have to alter that rule a bit when it comes to a quarterback. I'm not saying that these quarterbacks the Giants are going to feel are worth bending that rule for, but that's the one position where I feel like you kind of have to grade it a bit differently. We are so far away from definitive draft quarterback rankings. I won't be till March where we get clarity. So yeah, the combine always changes things. People do more film breakdown, interviews. That position specifically, the interviews are the most important. When you get to sit down, talk with the prospects, they weigh that heavily, the interviews with the quarterback. So yes, you will see the quarterback. Like, for instance, last year, J.J. McCarthy at this point was probably late first, early second round pick. And then he obviously impressed at the combine and he went top 10. Anthony Richardson, 2 years ago. I think, I don't know if he was a second round pick, but he certainly wasn't an early first round pick. And he, continued to go up as the draft process went along. So yes, you're right. The biggest issue for Schoen is he consistently drafts for need. I think that's a fair criticism, especially as the draft prolongs. I think that's a fair criticism. But to be fair, Josh, the team is so bad and was so bad when he took over. What position on this team wasn't a need? So, I mean, yeah, I agree. But every position's a need for this team and was a need for this team. Tyler says Slayton stays or goes. I think he's going to go. I think he goes. Because, like I said, my prediction is this year, I think we're going to spend a decent amount of money on a T. Higgins or a Godwin. So if they do that, they're not bringing Darius Slayton back. So I'm going to predict he goes. I think we let Darius Slayton finally test his skills somewhere else. But who knows? We'll see. But he got a lot less and less playing time as the season went along. So I'm leaning he will go. Nick says, hope this fourth year for Joe Schoen and Daboll caused them to learn and adjust at their respective positions. Joe Schoen drafts. Here's my biggest criticism with Joe Schoen. First, let's start with what I like about Joe Schoen in comparison to Dave Gettleman, which I guess you probably shouldn't be comparing him to Dave Gettleman because Dave Gettleman was obviously a massive failure with this team. But here's what I like to our previous GM. We'll start with the minor stuff. Handles the media much better than Dave Gettleman. Dave Gettleman handled the media awful, horribly. I think he's been able to get really good value with trades. The Brian Burns trade, for example, didn't give up a whole lot. The Darren Waller didn't give up a whole lot. The trade didn't work out, but you traded Tony. You got something for him before he was worth nothing. And then you basically flipped that pick for Darren Waller. Darren Waller didn't work out, but you didn't give up a whole lot to get him. I think he's done good with that. And also in terms of trading up in the draft, I think he's good at that in terms of analyzing value in trades. He hasn't overspent in trades. I remember in 2022 or 2023, was it? Everybody in the fan base was crying for him to trade up and give up a second-round pick for a wide receiver. Claypool, for example, right? I think the Bears ended up giving up like a first-round pick for the guy. Did nothing. He was able to get Hodgins off the scrap heap, and he was productive. So I think he does a good job with that. In terms of that, analyzing trade value, not overspending when he shouldn't. So I think that's a plus. I like the fact that he takes positional value into account a lot more than Dave Gettleman did. You would never catch Joe Schoen drafting a running back second overall. I think that's a plus. Now, the negatives is obviously, I think the biggest negative outside of the drafting for need, which is a very fair criticism. So far, I think he has thought, even though I think it's a good thing, I think he's leaned too much into thinking strictly as a team, like a spreadsheet. Like, I shouldn't spend more than X amount of dollars on this position. So I think there's certain instances, like in 2022, if he could go back in time, he probably should have given the $2 million more to Saquon Barkley. Probably should have done it, regardless of because he was a running back. Probably should have done it because he was a leader. So I think, and the same thing with McKinney. I think he didn't sign McKinney because he said, well, I shouldn't pay a safety more than this based on how much I value the position. There's certain players where you have to take into account leadership in the locker room, what they mean to the organization, their youth, their upside. So if I had to critique Joe Schoen, I think he thinks too much to date, and he's young, and maybe he will get better, but I think he thinks too much. Even though I think it's important for a GM to do that, I think you have to have some bend. I think you have to have some wiggle room. I think he thinks too much, like a spreadsheet. So I'll say that about him if I'm going to be critical. but I do think there are some positive things about him, and I think he could get better. Yeah, too much like analytics. Yeah, I wanted Neil and Tibbs. Joe Shane also misreads market value for players. Hope that improves too. But well said regarding his outlook on teams being more book oriented than people oriented. Yeah, that would be my major critique with him thus far. But another thing that I think is a pro with Joe Shane in comparison to Dave Gettleman. I like the fact that he's forward thinking when it comes to contracts. I like the fact that he said, "Let's get the Dexter Lawrence contract done now. Year 3, let's do it now because we know in another year he's going to be $7 more million a year because the market only goes up." He did that with Dexter Lawrence. He did that with Andrew Thomas. And he attempted to do that with Daniel Jones. It didn't work because Daniel Jones regressed, but he did give himself a 2-year out. So he was at least somewhat responsible with that contract. So I like that too. The contracts aren't always going to work out. The players aren't always going to work out, but at least I see process. I don't think he's as bad as people say, but I definitely think there are things to be negative about and things to be skeptical about. And the team isn't good right now. So I wouldn't have been upset if they fired him, but I see reason to think he could improve and get better. Well, if it says that 2022 draft class just really irks me. All misses is 2 first-round misses. I mean, it should. I mean, Kayvon still could be good, but certainly hasn't lived up to that pick. And Evan Neal at this point's a bust. So it should irk you. What are we gonna do with Jalen Hyatt? I hate to say it, man. I mean, he's still gonna be on the team next year, but I don't have much faith in Jalen Hyatt. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he turns it around, but I don't have much faith in him. What's up, Evan, man? Thanks for popping in. Nick says Joe Shane gets a pass for the 2022 first round. I don't know if I'll give him a pass, but I'm understanding, I think, for the reason that you're going to say. It was a slam dunk at the time. Getting KT and Neal was unthinkable at the time. Everybody loved it at the time. Nick, that's fair, but you could also say that about 2023. Everybody loved JMS at the time. Everybody loved Jalen Hyatt at the time. GMs get paid for foresight, right? So I get the point, but the picks didn't work out. Everybody loved Nate Solder at the time, but Dave Gettleman got killed for it because it didn't work out. So I make sense of the picks, and we agreed on draft night that those were the right picks, or at least the majority of us did. But they didn't work out. But the other thing you could say about 2022 is it was kind of, he didn't have his full staff yet, right? He was still working with the prior regime staff, or at least a portion of it during the draft process. So you factor that in as well. But I think most GMs, Nick, matter of fact, I remember after that draft, they leaked. I think Jerry Jones, he had a press conference. And you could say a lot of bad things about Jerry Jones, and you could say a lot of bad things about the Dallas Cowboys. I hate the Dallas Cowboys. Over the last 10 to 15 years, it's hard to find a team that's drafted much better than the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not saying they're the best, but they're among the best teams when it comes to the draft. Jerry Jones's draft sheet got leaked the next day because I think he was having a press conference, and I guess he had his draft board out while he was holding it. The first 2 names on his board, I don't remember the order, were Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. That was the Cowboys' top 2 players in that draft class. So, yeah, I think most people had those guys ranked high that year. Hasn't worked out. And who knows, maybe with the Cowboys they would have, because we suck. Let's see. Holy says, what do you think about signing a veteran like Mariota, drafting Hunter at 3, and moving up late in the first round if need be to get Milroe to sit a year and learn? I mean, it's an option. Mariota's not going to excite me, and I don't think Joe Shane's going to do that, knowing that his job's on the line. but it's an option. So Robert Kraft is a genius for picking Tom Brady in the 7th round. Of course, that was luck. I mean, obviously, Bill Belichick has a lot to do with that, too. Bill Belichick got the most out of all of his players, right? There's so many players that went there and were not successful at their prior team. Wes Welker, perfect example. Danny Woodhead with the Jets, he was a nobody. Went to the Patriots. He was one of the better running backs in the league. So, yeah, I mean, he also went into a great environment. And he had an incredible work ethic. Let's see. But, guys, I am going to close this out. It's been 2.5 hours. I might go live later this week because I am off this week. So I might go live later this week. Like if the Giants make if they make any, like if they fire the DC or something like that, I might go live, hang out with you guys for a bit. I'm losing my voice because I'm not used to doing these 2.5 hour live streams the way that I used to. But I had a lot of fun with you guys today, man. Hopefully the Giants are able to start to turn this around. I'm excited about this offseason. I don't know if it'll work, but I know it's going to be eventful. And I know we're going to have a lot to talk about. So we'll see. We'll see what the Giants end up doing. But they stick with their 2 guys at the top. They stick with Daboll. They stick with Schoen. And, we'll see if they get the job done. The Ace says, who do you have more confidence in, Daboll or Schoen? That is a great question. Most people are going to tell you Daboll. And I completely understand that. Obviously, he won Coach of the Year in 2022. I would tell you 2024, I actually think Schoen had the better year than Daboll. I don't think that's debatable, is it? I mean, I guess you could argue that he let Saquon go, and Saquon had a great year with the Eagles, but he wouldn't have done that here. And you could say he let McKinney go. So those weren't great decisions. But his draft class was, we could all agree, at least looks very good right now. And the Daboll didn't have a good year, obviously. So I would say 2024, Schoen had the better year. But overall, I think most people would say up to this point, Daboll's been at least slightly better based off the fact that he won Coach of the Year in 2022. But I think it's a hard question to answer because I think it's a lot easier to judge a head coach within 2 or 3 years than it is a general manager. A general manager is kind of like the president, right? They say that when you're the president of the United States, you can't really judge the job that the president did until the next guy takes over the following term, when you see how his moves kind of worked out. So it's kind of hard to judge it. Like, ask me that question in 3 or 4 years and I'll tell you, because like when Gettleman still did a horrible job and he absolutely should have been fired. But Dexter Lawrence looked a lot better after Dave Gettleman left. Andrew Thomas continued to look better. So it's hard to answer that question. But right now, the safe answer is Daboll. But it's kind of a different curve. It's kind of apples and oranges. But guys, I'm going to close it out. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Be good, guys. Is this stream still live? I thought I hit end stream. Let me know in the chat if the stream's still live, if you're still in here. I think it's still live. I hit end stream, but I don't think it ended. I'll wait to see if somebody says in the chat, and then I'll hit end stream again. It's still live. Thank you for letting me know, Raphael. Now I'm going to close it out. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'm still getting used to being live again. Be good, guys.